spooky style.
Have you ever explored the depths of fear? Have you ever wondered what depravity dwells within the imagination of a storyteller that prompts them to exhume horrors untold and expose those horrors to unsuspecting audiences? Some are repulsed, and some are shaken. However, there are those who are invigorated. So to those demented souls, we invite you to journey inward into the dark bowels of human imagination. Press play, and you will discover what's in the podcast.
Look at that subtle off-white coloring. The tasteful thickness of it. Oh my god. It even has a watermark.
Something wrong?
Just have to kill a lot of people!
I have all the characteristics of a human being, but not a single clear, identifiable emotion.
I can feel what's coming. I say, uh-oh, uh-oh, uh-oh.
Something bad will happen.
You see me gliding, but there's something
I feel lethal.
hiding in the shadow, shadow, shadow.
I think my mask of sanity is about to slip.
And uh-oh, uh-oh. But everyone keeps saying that I look amazing, so I don't know. Hey, Paul, I want it all. The next transaction, come on, sell it out.
And welcome back to another edition of What's in the Podcast, right on time for our 8:30 reservation at Dorsia. And for today, I know we already did a Facets of Fright on Sweeney Todd, but this is one that has been circling so many times that I've been talking about doing an episode on this, frankly, seminal work. And during these times of the Annoying Orange, it just seemed really, really appropriate to rip into one of the Annoying Orange's greatest fans. Yes, and I'm not even kidding, because in the original source novel, there's whole passages where the titular American, well, I don't want to say titular, but basically, yes, today we're talking about American Psycho, Facets of Fright edition, where we are going to decode, deconstruct, and delve into the mind of probably the most ultimate satirical portrait of the classic toxic male. But today, in order to do that, we are bring back another wonderful friend of ours from our horror hot takes and also our excellent expose to the world of Cronenberg. It is Emma of Emma the Impact. Welcome back.
Thanks for having me. I'm so excited to talk about this.
Absolutely. I was excited that you expressed interest in this one because I was like,
This is one of my favorite, it's one of my favorite films.
Mhm.
Because, and we'll get into that later, but I've seen it so many times.
Yeah, we can get into it now. Actually, that's kind of a good place to kick off with. So, like, for you, what was your first exposure to this one?
Well, so it came out in 1999, so I probably watched it in 99 or 2000.
Yeah.
You know, back when there was a local video store. I grew up in a small New England town, and it was called Video Junction, and I rented it on VHS, even though they were getting DVDs at the time.
Yeah.
And I had done a lot of the slashers because, like, I just was drawn to horror. That's a whole other thing. But I was drawn to horror, and you watch, like, so I watched all the Nightmare on Elm Streets, all the Halloweens, all the Friday the 13th, and I just picked up American Psycho, and we didn't have a computer. So I hadn't ever seen the trailer, which I know deceived people to thinking it was a different type of movie, but I didn't. That's not something I knew. I just thought this is a horror movie. Picking it up, not ready for the cover that is Hellraiser. And when I watched it, so I would have been about 12 or 13 years old, and yeah, and I thought it was going to be a slasher film, and it's not. And it really. I know I hate that it's been co-opted, but this is my truth. This is my baby. And so I never knew. It kind of opened my eyes of what a film could be. It's one of those movies, and especially with horror movies. And I'm like, what is this? Obviously I didn't read into it as deeply as I do now, but I'm like, this is funny. Is there something wrong with me that I think it's funny? And it just the idea of there's a lot of concepts in it. And
Yeah.
so it was a horror film that I'd never seen anything like that before.
Yeah, same funny enough goes for me, though funny enough, the first inkling I got about this movie, didn't know anything about the book, but I remember we had a subscription to Entertainment Weekly and an announcement came out about Leonardo DiCaprio being up for the part of Patrick Bateman and Oliver Stone was going to direct it. But as at that point his price tag was about like 21 million and the budget ballooned up to 40 and the
Do
film
you think
direct
he could have done it? Do you
you
think
know
Leo
what
could have done it?
at the time, the Leo at the time, no, but I would say Leo only a couple years later, probably yes, because at that point, Leo, I will admit, had not impressed me. He didn't really start impressing me as an actor until Catch Me If You Can and Gangs of New York a
He
couple
was
years later.
like just getting out of his pretty boy girl fantasy, which sounds weird to younger folks.
Hmm.
He was, pretty boy face. He was like, because still, I don't remember when Gangs of New York came out, where he's still
Those,
kind of a pretty boy there.
yeah, I think those were relatively around the same time. I want to say either 2000, actually, 2002, because I remember it was in competition with Chicago for
That's right.
Best
That's right.
Picture. I
Hmm.
remember, so somewhere around that same time, and but. Uh, yeah, I'm kind of glad it fell through on that level, and I think a lot of it was just because Oliver Stone and just I think whoever was writing at the time just could not get a handle on the material, and of course, the studios were constantly trying to like rejig the film, neuter it. Whereas Mary Harron, who had been trying to get the project up and off the ground and wanted things done her way, she had a very specific vision for it. One that was definitely much more in keeping with the book. And finally, but then of course, when Leo fell through and Oliver Stone fell through, the project went back to Harron and she insisted on casting Christian Bale. Like that was like her top choice. And they said, well, fine, you can have your bail, but we're not gonna give you like more money for it. We're just gonna give you 7 million. But they're like, fine, that's all we need.
Well, and it's also co-written by Guinevere Turner, who
That's
also
right.
plays Elizabeth, the redhead in the
Mm,
film. And she's a woman who loves women. Love that. So the film, the adaptation of the book, which is not exactly the book. There are some big differences, but generally the same.
it's
Um,
yeah.
and so it's a film kind of I see made a lot by women. And it's funny that because Bret Easton Ellis, he wrote that like stupid book about like why does everyone care? Why is someone so upset? And such the most I know he's Gen X, I think, but it
Yeah.
was such a like okay, like you're saying why does everyone care so much about what's going on, like Trump and all this stuff earlier on.
Mm,
And but you're writing a book about it. So like it doesn't make sense to me.
yeah.
And I think it's like part of it is like being white. I don't know, but he did say after the film came out, which he goes back and forth depending. I used to listen to his podcast, and
Mm.
his depending on who he's talking about, especially when it comes to Alfred Hitchcock's Vertigo, he loves it or he hates it.
So
He's a
he's thinking
flip
this.
flopper. He's a flip flopper, and he's an
Yeah.
edge lord. But I kind of have an affection for him in a weird way, not in a just like as an idea of a person, he's
Yeah.
funny. He kind of is Patrick Bateman,
Yeah, I was
and
about to
he,
say.
he himself has said that. So one thing is like he's like, oh, women can't make movies, but I think he just says things to be
Yeah.
edgy.
Which which I suppose you have to be kind of like that in order to write a book like American Psycho. I think that's safe to say because
He used to
obviously,
write tweets that were just like Patrick. Like I think there was one in particular about My Chemical Romance. I'm like, Patrick? And I don't think it was on purpose. You know what I mean? It was
oh, he went
just
on a big old Patrick Bateman like tirade
yeah,
on My
yeah.
Chemical Romance.
But it was
Okay.
back when Twitter was limited to certain words. Remember those days?
Oh,
So a certain amount of words, but it just like, and then he tried to make a deal with his Coke dealer, and he was so like out of it, he just tweeted it.
oh wow.
He's funny. He's funny, and his
Yeah.
podcast was great. He has a lot of controversial figures on there that weren't as controversial at the time. But I think one of my favorite ones of his podcast, which is an early one, is with Peaches. And
Jesus Christ.
she and him and Peaches are praising Phantom of the Paradise, but I'm losing the plot here.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and Mary Harron wanted Christian Bale specifically because he understood the humor. He
Mhm.
understood Patrick is pathetic and it's hilarious.
Yes.
And so that was the reason she was so drawn for him. He did audition, and she's like, he gets it. He gets that this is
Yeah.
funny, and that's why she insisted on him. And this is just a funny little tidbit that I think is just coincidence
Mhm.
completely. Gloria Steinem was one of the big voices, especially because there's so much violence on women in the book.
Oh, absolutely.
And so she was one of the big public voices that, like, this book shouldn't be published and all that. And she, for a period of time, was Christian Bale's, and at the time the movie was made, Christian Bale's was her stepson
Yeah.
until his father, her husband, died, which I definitely think is coincidence, but it is kind of funny.
It is actually pretty damn funny. I mean, and that's the wacky thing about American Psycho on the whole is that it has been attacked, lambasted for for its violence against women in very similar fashion to stuff like Maniac, where people think like it's a film that delights in the sadistic torture of women, when in reality, when you deconstruct it, you realize that no, this is about dissecting the toxic masculine mind of the kind of person who would inflict that kind of violence on women.
But
So,
and in the book is far more descriptive.
oh,
There's a giant
baby.
rat, and but in the
Oh,
film, it's more so suggested. We see Patrick, pull out a tray of, surgical tools. We can see blood on sheets. We don't see much
mhm.
actual violence, in the sense of, him knifing somebody or whatever. And
Yeah.
even the axe scene, we don't see the axe. I think we definitely see Jared Leto after the axe is in him falling down, but we see Patrick hacking the axe. We don't really see a lot of graphic things of the axe splitting up Paul Owen
Yeah.
or Paul Owen, depending on
Yeah.
uh, head. So it's a lot of suggestion, like Texas Chainsaw Massacre, famously, with when he puts her. We only see him lifting her up, and he's gonna put her on the meat hook, but we actually don't see
Yeah.
him putting her on the meat hook. But the suggestion of it makes it become true in our minds.
hmm Yeah, and just with the good combination of sound and yeah, just with great strategic blood splattering at the right moments, and yeah, just good insert shots of his wounds bleeding out onto the sports section on that's taped on the ground. Just all of that, just through good suggestion, you feel like you are seeing the axe get buried into Paul, when in reality, no, it's just good suggestion, good sound editing, just with the axe going into the meat. It's just really well done. I mean, it's another classic example of what you don't see is much more effective than what you do. I mean, even the whole part where he kills Guinevere Turner, I love just how it's at first it starts with orgasmic noises, but then it just gradually transitions into death throes, and then you see the blood seeping through the sheets.
Look, that scene, whether do you want to talk about that scene now, or
Oh,
because I
we could,
have a lot
yeah,
to
like
say
I
about
said,
it?
with Fast to Fright, we go wherever the conversation takes us, as long as it is an aid of just decoding what it is that makes this work, and that's what we're already doing. So
It's a
go for
big
it.
scene that, because, we at a certain point, and that this is a scene where he kills Guinevere Turner's character, Elizabeth, I believe,
Hmm.
and Chrissy, it's Chrissy, right?
Yeah, Christine. Yeah.
Chrissy, the prostitute he took off the streets for two dalliances, right? And this is the second one. And I love the cuttingness of, like, she doesn't even know she's insulting him. They're in
hmm
supposedly Paul Owen's apartment, and she's like, "This is much nicer than your other apartment."
Yeah.
Ooh, burn, bitch. She
Yeah.
doesn't even know. And but then once, she's like, "Oh shit." When the other woman, Elizabeth, I think, so she's running, and that's when Patrick is naked, running with a chainsaw.
In his
But he,
shoes. He
he
still makes sense
does,
with sneakers on.
that's it. He takes the time to put probably ungodly expensive, pristine white sneakers on. So Patrick, I see as somebody that he knows he's vapid. He knows he's empty, but something within this secret world makes him kind of a predator. He think like I don't think he thinks of himself as, like, formerly as Nietzsche's Ubermensch, but it's like a similar idea. Even though he's the Uber consumer,
hmm
right? He's even accessorized for the chainsaw kill with his really pristine white sneakers. I mean,
Yeah.
he's a product, and even his violence and everything, because in the book it's even more mentioned, and we see it in the movie that he rents a lot of porn and horror. So it's like he's replicating things that aren't even original. And I think a lot of it comes from the idea of the exit sign, and this is not an exit, which is
Yeah.
explicitly said at the end of the book, but is more visual in the
Hmm.
film. And also the sign changes what it says, which some people think is a continuity thing and some people think is intentional, but
Hmm.
I think, what, I don't care,
Yeah.
it works really well. This is
Yeah.
not an exit. So the idea that he thinks maybe there's an exit through, his violence, maybe there's an exit from having a secret life, maybe there's an exit to the meaningless life they have in a confession, in breaking down. But no, everything just glosses over and starts over again. And even at the end, before Patrick says this confession means nothing, um, has meant nothing. Uh, Reagan in the film, Reagan is on the TV, and he's talking about the Iran Contra uh, scandal issue where where Reagan gave arms to Iran. That's why people say, he gave weapons to Osama bin Laden, which is not, it's not as
Hmm.
direct as that, but he does, to free, people that are Americans that were in custody in Lebanon, which was true, but they did get the money and they used the money to arm the Contra in Nicaragua. So basically, it was a big Reagan scandal, and Reagan's very
Hmm.
80s. And then I don't remember which one, which is funny because that's the point of the film. I think it's Neil Bryce. I think it's Bryce that
Yeah, it
mentions
is
it, Tim
Bryce.
Bryce. And
Yeah.
he's like, you know, I think they're gonna just keep getting away with this.
Yeah.
And then they're like, oh, and he just pauses, and they're like, all right, Tim, we're actually listening to you for a change.
Yeah.
And then the subject changes, and that's kind of something that happens within Western culture all the time,
Hmm.
especially American culture. So it's like we can be horrified by these things, but we just keep going into this.
Yeah.
There is, there's an exit sign, but there is no
No.
exit.
Oh no, that's why in every iteration of American Psycho, from the book, the movie, and even the musical, the
We're
final,
all American psychos, not
yeah,
Like Patrick, but
yeah. I mean, but the final, even the final closing number of the musical is called "This Is Not an Exit."
I did see that, yes.
Yeah, which I thought which is utterly inspiring, because it is to remind everybody that in the end, Patrick Bateman is trapped in his own personal hell. He is screaming on one side, and because now not only is there the very real possibility that he is still going out there committing horrific acts of violence, there is also the other possibility that all of this is in his brain. He is screaming bloody murder, but he is so impotent as a human being in every shape, way, or form. In all likelihood, he will never be able to express that rage. So there's also the possibility that all that rage that we have seen him commit in the book, or even in the movie or the musical, all of that is could just all be internalized. But there's also compelling evidence to the other side that yes, all of it is happening, but because either A, he is such an unremarkable, uninteresting person that no one would ever believe in a million years he could ever do it, or because of his position as a place of man and privilege, as it's very lightly elucidated that his dad owns the company he works for.
Daddy got him the job.
Yeah, daddy got him the
I think
job.
it's Reese, his fiance, that mentions it.
Yeah, Evelyn makes mention that his dad works for the company, and that in all likelihood his dad is fully aware of the dark ass shit he gets up to. And
His dad is dead though at this point.
yeah,
In
or
the
at least
At
someone
least
in
in
his
the book
family.
and in the movie, I don't think he's mentioned. His mother comes into it, which we'll talk about that.
Yeah, his mother pops up a bunch of times. They even, yeah, she pops up. She does not pop up in the movie. She is regular in both the book and the musical. She has, well, in the musical,
She
she has,
only has one small scene in the book, and then
yeah,
can I talk about my, okay, so
yeah,
if you had to pick what iteration you enjoy the most, not that it's the best version of the story,
yeah.
which one is it? The movie, is it the book, or is it the film?
You mean the musical? Yeah, you said,
uh
yeah, yeah. I would say, well, they
Film,
all
I
have
said
their own.
movie, film twice, I'm so
Yeah,
dumb.
you did. That's okay. I'd say when it comes to like the essence, the thing that perfectly represents the essence of what American Psycho is, I definitely say the movie above all
I
else.
totally agree.
Yeah, I'd
I think it's
say.
better than the book.
Yeah, oh, I would say that too. I mean, for everyone who is curious, should they read the book? I will say I listened to the audiobook, which frankly I think is the better way to go because one of two things will probably turn you off from the book. The violence for one, but the other thing is
It's
that
so
I would,
gross the way he thinks. Hard
yeah.
bodies. It's great. And then you start thinking like him because you're in his narrative, stuck in it.
Oh, precisely. That when it comes, but the other thing is, it would be a tedious read as well because even before you get to the first kill, there are pages upon pages of him
Long
talking about
descriptions.
just long, vivid descriptions about the restaurants they're eating at, what everyone's wearing, what and how everyone's just talking about inane bullshit. It is absolute. So
But Ellis, I think, wants you to be bored.
exactly. Oh no,
Because
that's the genius of the book.
And the thing is, these are all status things. Nobody enjoys the fancy food they're having or
No.
not enjoys it. It's just all about status. It's all about where do you summer. And like because like it's famously known that Bret Easton Ellis was going to write he'd already had the big success of the film, his adaptation of the film Less Than
Less
Zero,
than zero. That's right.
and he was writing his I don't think it was his next book, but it was close.
Hmm.
um he's very good at rich privileged malaise. That's his thing. uh
Yeah. I think the thing that was funniest is that in he went to do to hang he hung out with stockbrokers, kind of like research,
yeah,
but
yeah,
he
yeah.
yeah, and he noticed firstly a couple things. He noticed how thoroughly uninteresting they all are, just and how practically they're all clones of each other. But he also noticed these guys could commit murder and no one would either would
Yeah,
believe
he
it.
woke up and he's like, this actually is about a serial killer.
Yeah.
And people bring up the gay
Mm.
thing, that
With
sounds so
Lewis.
reductive, which that we can get. Well, we'll just we want to let the conversation flow. And he didn't want to answer that question, partially because a long time Ellis said he based that character on his father.
Mm.
And the truth is, he did admit, which, he flip floppies. It's really about him and his
Mm.
experience in the 80s, even though he wasn't part of Wall Street. But he was saying, being around these Wall Street people, he never got any sense or talk about what they actually did for a job. It's all
Exactly.
about, where you summer, the idea of Dorsia wasn't a real place, but the idea of Dorsia, like getting beyond the gates and everything like that. But um the thing that is important for me with the moment, with some people also interpret it, Willem Dafoe's character,
Hmm.
the
Kimball, yeah.
detective, uh into that, which I don't see it, but I don't say it's wrong either. But when it comes to Lewis, where Patrick has his gloves on, he's gonna
Mm.
choke Lewis, and Lewis sees it like as a come on. He's like, "Oh, I knew," and I don't think Patrick is grossed out. I mean, part of it is homophobia, but I
Oh, it
think
absolutely is.
the bigger point is Lewis is having a genuine feeling and an honest feeling, even if it is desire. It's a real moment, and he's one of the like rare people that actually knows who Patrick Bateman is within the world. And that, I think, the vulnerability of that moment is what grossed him out more than his homophobia, which is definitely a part of it. And it's
Yeah.
hilarious when he washed his gloved hands, like, ugh. But to me, I think it says even more. It's that it's a real moment, and
Mm.
reality, ew, gross.
Yeah. Oh no, that's another key thing that is important to note about him is that yeah, he is very much averse to any kind of human connection or any kind of legit human feelings. And anyone who challenges him, even if they're not deliberately doing it, freaks him out. I mean, the other character who I think is the emotional heart of the book, mu movie, and even the musical is his secretary Jean.
Oh, she's hardly in the book. She's the
Yeah,
heart of the musical, though. She's
yeah,
his emotions. It's like the mirror of his emotions and how she sings about him and feels about him.
and it's also the idea that the kind of person that Patrick's trying to sell himself to be, well, his peers are not fazed by it whatsoever, and because everyone else around him in his circle are so shallow, the only person who is receptive to the image that Patrick's trying to sell is his secretary because
She
she's
doesn't live in the same world, even though she
exactly.
works there. Her world is different. And in the movie, when imagine all these helicopters and feeding the ATM a cat, which, happens earlier in the book, like weird things with the ATM talking to him, is when he's calling to say before he's going to confess to his lawyer, or he already confessed to the lawyer over the voice machine. So, but basically, she's the only one that's, Patrick, are you all right? He's like, I'm just not coming in today. She's like, are you all right? Just say no. Yeah. So, she's a real person. Christy, or Chrissy. I'm sorry if I'm getting that name wrong.
I think it's Christine.
And she and Sabrina, another prostitute, which, hey, we're sex positive here. But within the film, they're just like he's like, don't you want to know what I do? When he has both of them, they both say, not really,
and he
because
just goes
they're
on
there for a
it.
job, like they don't like his status or who he is or what he does. Murder and executions, or merger and acquisitions, it doesn't matter. And God, and then there was a vulnerable moment with Courtney, who is Lewis's fiance, who he's having sex with. And I don't think it's so much her trying to open up was as much about feelings for Patrick, but she's like, Patrick, because she's not thriving in this world. She needs drugs to be able to do.
Yeah, she's medicated as hell, to the point where she doesn't even realize she's at Barcadia when Patrick tells her that they're at Dorsia. So yeah, that's how bad.
She tries to open up to Patrick, and then she stops herself. She lives within the same world he does, and she's like, well, if I don't see you before Easter, have a good one. All right. And then he leaves the room. She's like, Patrick, what? And then she just said nothing. So she's somebody who had a genuine moment too, but she knows that it's not socially appropriate to be that way.
Yeah. And it also, I mean, this is one thing one thing I will say the musical did have over the movie is they gave a lot more focus on the whole subplot with Lewis. They actually tell the whole, as it happened in the book, they actually do the whole thing in the musical. Specifically, firstly, the whole idea that Courtney is not only in a loveless relationship with Lewis, because there's a reality that she knows full out that Lewis is gay.
But they all have Evelyn and Patrick's relationship is just as fake, even though he's not gay, or he might be bisexual, who knows? But still, and that's another interesting, and the musical does give the women a lot more voice, and I liked that part. There's certain things that I didn't like, but it's just, you do have to adapt and change things that reach an audience when you're adapting something to the stage, especially a musical. It's not going to be the same. But Evelyn is when he breaks up with her around the end, and she does cry, but Evelyn strikes me more as, and there's a joke in the musical of, she's like, we should get married, and he's like, well, we should have a wedding. Like, that's what's them having a fancy wedding is what's important to her. And in the first thing one of the first things she says in the movie is like, but your friends are my friends. And it's more like the idea of status being a couple, and the idea of a fancy wedding and all this stuff. She doesn't actually love Patrick, but she does, even though she does cry. It's more about the idea of this ideas that she had what her life was going to be, even though it's not about Patrick at all, is crushed.
Yeah, because Patrick, ideally, visually, beautiful.
Mistletoe alert.
Yeah, mistletoe alert. Yeah, and you have to cue each other about the mistletoe, because it's like that's the only way you're going to get any kind of intimacy between each other. I mean, I would be scared about the idea that they have anything resembling a physical relationship, because
they had to have had sex at some point.
At some point, but very clearly it's not even remotely as keen. Hell, even
she's having an affair with somebody too. They mention it.
He believes that she's hooking up with. I think he suspects that she's hooking up with Bryce.
Okay.
Yeah, I think with either
they're
Bryce
all the same.
Exactly, that's the joke. So many times we could try to say, wait a minute, McDermott or Bryce, and we'd be confused. But the whole joke is that it doesn't matter. I think we have to mention the scene. Hell, so much so that I even have it as a tattoo right there.
Oh, that's fucking sick, dude.
Yeah, I got it as a tattoo, but
the subtle thickness of it. It even has a watermark. And he's sweating.
Sweating. The business card scene is the perfect embodiment of everything that we're talking about because the whole joke of it is that here are all these guys in a quintessential dick measuring contest, but ultimately in the end, anyone who's from the outside looking and going, guys, they look the freaking same. It doesn't, we don't care. And in the end, that's not the purpose of a business card. The business card is supposed to just tell us your phone number, how we can get in contact with you. It serves a functional purpose, but you guys are elevating it to,
Elevate as a status of taste.
yeah, which is hilarious because one brilliant bit of production design, not even in the book, but in the production design of the movie, if you scrutinize every single one of those cards, acquisitions is misspelled.
I never noticed that.
Yeah,
That's
in
so
fact,
cool.
actually, and I made sure when I got this tattoo, I made sure to tell them, make sure
Here's some.
acquisition is misspelled.
That's awesome. I
Yeah,
love that so much. I love that
because
so much. You're so cool.
yeah, and actually another and a great part of the post-production of that scene, if you notice, whenever they flip open their cases, it makes a little chic noise. They
Shush.
del- yeah, well, yeah, they make the noise and they deliberately made it sound like kind of a quick version of a samurai sword being pulled out of a sheath.
Mm,
That was a
mm.
deliberate choice where they wanted,
Katana.
yeah, like a katana coming out because that's what this is to all of them.
And it's a dick measuring contest
Yeah,
too, in a
I think,
weird way.
and the thing I love about Lewis when he shows his card later on is that his had the balls to look different from everyone else's because he put his in gold leaf.
And he dresses different than the others
Yeah, he
to a
wears a bow
point. Like he
tie.
has a bow tie. And that's why everyone kind of sees him as pathetic. Even Patrick doesn't realize, like when people are talking to Patrick and they think they're talking to some Marcus,
Marcus
somebody
Hathaway.
else, they don't think they're talking about him. And they mention Patrick Bateman. Oh, what a loser.
Yeah,
Spineless. Like, like the lawyer. Like he's like, your joke was so great. But
yeah,
Bateman, that
of course.
spineless loser? I would have
Yeah,
met with Bryce or McDermott, I would have believed it. And he's like, I am Patrick Bateman.
man.
I killed Paul Allen and I liked it. And that's the point. And he's actually showing true fear and panic. I wouldn't call it emotion, but fear and panic. And, that's so faux pas. And let's move on. Like, okay, the joke's inappropriate now. It's
Yeah.
lasting too long. Let's go to the bar.
Let's just go to the bar. Yeah. I mean, and the sad part is there was a little part of me feeling like, damn, I really do wish people took Patrick seriously, and I really do wish he did do all these things. And I think he wants everyone to believe him that he did it at that point because it would have given him something resembling an identity. It would have made him stand out from all these other guys. But he has buried himself. He has entrenched himself so badly in this superficial world of clothing labels and overpriced restaurants that, and surrounding himself with people who are practically clones of him, that no one believes him, and that no one could ever even, and even worse, he's just in such a place of privilege that, the sick part is, if you really deconstructed his friends, you could even possibly assume that a lot of them get up to their own depraved, kinky ass, probably even dark ass shit too. Probably not, maybe not murder, but definitely stuff like, white slavery, possibly like weird ass, like, because around the time of the 19, oh,
Pedophiles.
yeah, well, here's a wild thing, a nice little nuance in the production on this. Now, are you familiar with the film Party Monster?
Oh yeah, Disco Bloodbath was the original name of the book.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I love that movie.
If you look in during one of the club scenes, there is very visibly club kids that very much resemble Michael Alec and also Angel, I believe the person he killed.
Mm.
So that was all part of the scene at that time. So that the key thing, that's the other thing I also will say about this. Now, when it comes to movies that are designed to be a proper time capsule of a specific age, I mean, yeah, we can all talk about how much we love the exaggerated 80s, like in Stranger Things. But to me, American Psycho is the perfect, like in many ways, it's kind of like the coda to the end of the 1980s, transitioning into the 90s. I mean, so it's honestly, it's not that odd that they're showing that Reagan speech at the very end because that many people would say that was
It's
like
the
kind of,
end of it was around the end of his second term, like
yeah,
well, I think it was like the third year of his second up. I'm not positive, but
yeah.
yeah,
No,
it,
it was yeah,
it
80
was around the end, but not the at the very end.
precisely. So in many ways, it was kind of like the ending of Reagan's run, where yeah, he ended his career in Scandal and the
Yuppie
like.
scum.
Yeah. I mean, frankly, scandals about him should have been all over the place even from the dead beginning. Freaking hell, Hinckley aim a different direction. Come on. I don't know. A lot of
Yeah, you had the right idea, even though it was about
wrong,
Jodie Foster or
right,
whatever.
right
Because he
idea,
was,
wrong reason.
it doesn't matter the reason he missed. And then Reagan looked like such a hero.
Yeah.
And that because he used to be head of SAG, and even though he wasn't that great of an actor, let me talk about Ronald Reagan for a second.
Go for
Okay, I'm obsessed with him a little bit because he's so terrible.
Oh yeah.
And the idea that usually he played the nice general American lawyer guy, and that's how he became president after he played it in movies, and then he screwed everyone over in SAG. But as president of it before he became governor of California. But anyway, what was I gonna say about Ronald Reagan? What did you mention before? I got a little ahead of myself.
Just kind of like talking about how the Iran Contra affair and all of that is just kind of like a coda to just how the fact that he left America practically in shambles, and then unfortunately we were transitioning into the George H.W. Bush era, which ended up, kind of fucking things up even further. But it was just the idea that he was selling. Unfortunately, he was also the engineer of trickle down economics. He was making the upper class like
Nixon set up that metaphoric pussy for Ronald to ruin.
pretty
Um,
much.
yeah. So a funny thing about Ronald Reagan, um, and I'm not saying he's funny. So basically, he played the average American guy and everything like that. Oh, the shooting, that was what it was.
Mm,
And so at the that Academy Awards, whether they pre-shot it or streamed it, I'm not sure. They have video of Ronald Reagan in the hospital, like I'm doing great, and he makes a little joke about it, and like just fuck. It
yeah,
really actually helped Reagan to get shot. It helped him.
yeah.
And
Oh no.
Reagan, so he King's Row is one of his more known films. That's the one where his legs are missing.
Mm,
And it's the female actress is really, that's really her part that she really shines in. But he says in the film, "Where's the rest of me?" And do you
mm.
want to know what Ronald Reagan's autobiography was titled?
The rest of me.
Where is the rest of me? And that's so fucking dark. I don't know. It's
Isn't the
like
thing didn't he die
it's
of Alzheimer's?
well, yeah, kind of. And then there's always a debate about how competent he was, but at this point, I think it's not relevant.
Mm,
It's what's going on now with our older, like, hey, he passed so many tests that he's competent.
yeah, yeah,
It seems so tame now. Not that it
yeah.
wasn't important, because it was, but yeah, so it helped Reagan. And so, Reagan is just one of the biggest symbols of the 80s and how it still affects us today.
Any
But
more
he's the nothing's more 80s than Ronald fucking Reagan. And
precisely?
David Lynch, I hate to bum everybody out. And I think and I like to mention this because I think it's more getting a full picture of an artist, and a lot of them are apolitical pretty much, or
Mm,
have don't really get involved in politics. But you can see in Lynch's films he's got that 1950s nostalgia, right?
mhm.
Him and Reagan were actually not like best friends, but they had dinners together. They were buddies. He voted
Yeah.
for Reagan, and then he voted for Bernie Sanders, which I think is more like a certain political ignorance. And nothing against Bernie Sanders,
Mhm.
Reagan bad, but it's just that like it just adds to. And I still love David Lynch. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
This is not a condemnation of him. It's just kind of it puts a certain idea to his work, which he even was commenting on. Like, if you think of, I'm getting off topic.
Yeah.
I'll quickly wrap
You
this
get there.
up.
You get there.
The ear in the grass, of the American white picket fence, the red flowers, red, white, and blue with the sky, and then the ear and the dirtiness of it.
Oh
So even
yeah.
though he is like more so in the drama of Twin Peaks, but he also saw the darkness as well.
Mhm.
So it just I like knowing a lot about an artist, and
Yeah.
and it brings more to their work, even if yes, they are not examples of their work, but you always bring something of yourself to something, don't you?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, precisely. I mean, well, you could even argue, I mean, that especially with Guinevere Turner and even with Mary Harron, that that's what they wanted to inject into this because it was clear that they understood the intent of the book specifically to uh, decode and even just expose like the superficiality of the classic toxic male during the peak of their powers during the greed is good era of America.
It never went away,
Yeah,
baby.
and unfortunately never went away. And these are the people who they were like the peak of society at that time of the ideals laid down by Reagan. Uh, and but the great thing, but the thing is, people never seem to understood about American Psycho, especially the people who protested it, not realizing that the whole idea is that it's ripping into the lie of these people. And I love the fact that Mary Harron and Guinevere Turner were obviously receptive to it in the way they translated this film, and and you could tell they're on the right wavelength in that very first scene, even just with the opening credits when you're seeing like all the syrup being meticulously laid out on the plates like in blood-like
Mhm.
formations, just kind of pointing out like the real dark ass shit that's happening under the ideal pristine elegant facade. But then the first scene in this movie, you have all of them sitting together in a ostensibly opulent restaurant, but here are these guys ragging on the restaurant, saying it's for gay people, or it's so stupid. Oh, these blinis are terrible. And
Yeah, That's So Gay wasn't just a millennial thing. It's
yeah,
always been.
it's always been, unfortunately. And here they are bitching about this restaurant. And it's like, this is a high-end, elegant ass restaurant. But these guys, and even the thing that made me sick at the end of that scene is when they say, like, oh, well, speaking of reasonable, and they say the final tally of what they ate is like 570 something dollars, which bear in mind, this is 80s money. That's somewhere in the ballpark, probably somewhere like over 1,000, like maybe 2,000. And they just slap down their credit cards like it's nothing.
Oh, they all have the same credit card too.
It's like,
Is it American Express, I think?
yeah, something like that, which of course that was like peak of their power.
Platinum card. It looks
Yeah.
like you have to
Even their
have a
credit
certain
cards
amount of
look the
credit to
same.
get it or whatever. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, no, these guys just made me so damn sick. And I think another reason why American Psycho has had such significant staying power, and I would even say has become even stronger, given recent events, is because it's ripping into the kind of people that we have nothing but contempt for nowadays. So, and I think that scene, just that the way they casually, one guy comes in going, "This place doesn't even have a good place to do coke," which that line freaking slays me every time I hear it. It's like, what?
And I'm going to ask you before I talk about my favorite part of the book,
Okay.
what you think the main differences between the book, the musical, and the film are, and how it tells the story. But I'm going to tell you one of
Okay.
my favorite, even though the film to me is the ultimate,
Hmm.
story and the way it's depicted. Um, well, a big difference is like he starts hallucinating. It's clear he's
Mm.
hallucinating really
Yeah.
quick in the book. But the chapter Birthday Brothers.
Ah,
Do you remember that?
I think I remember.
Sean
Yeah,
Bateman,
Sean
who is
Bateman.
the main character of Rules of
Traction.
Attraction. And Patrick shows up briefly in that film and in that book, but not really.
Mm.
So, Patrick, like Dorcia is like this pearly gates of status. Something
Yeah.
like if you have the right clothes, you have the Fisher account, whatever, you've reached a certain amount of status that means so fucking much to
Hmm.
Patrick. And he's talking to his brother Sean on the phone. It's Sean's birthday. And Sean's like, we don't really have to do anything, whatever. And Patrick's like, well, I actually, because he wants to have power over his little brother. Rock and roll, as Sean Bateman would say. I got that on my chest. Not because of
Yep.
Sean Bateman. And Sean is just as hollow as Patrick. He's
Oh
just
yeah.
in a different way and looking for an exit in a different way. But that's not important to this particular part.
Yeah.
Just knowing that he's also very shallow and empty. Not violent though. But so Patrick's trying to control the situation. He's like, well, I think mom's not doing well, which we'll talk about mom later. Um, and he gets Sean. Sean's like, okay, I'll meet you at 9 at Dorsia. And like Patrick's like, what the fuck? And then Patrick shows up at Dorsia. Sean is super late, and the restaurant won't seat Patrick until
until
Sean arrives. And Sean couldn't give a shit that
yeah.
he's at Dorsia. It's so delicious. I love
Mhm.
it when Patrick is so burned. And
Yeah.
some people say that it's a power struggle between brothers, and I don't think it's that clear. Bateman also shows up in the musical, but not in the same way.
That's right.
But I think it means more to me, and I can interpret the way I want. Don't let me forget the first time later on, the first time we see Paul Allen or
Yeah.
Paul
Well, the
Owen.
first time we think we see Paul Allen, we think we see him.
So you think that too? Okay, so basically,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
so
So
yeah,
in the
rock and roll. He doesn't give a shit. He shows up late, and it's like everything, something that means everything to Patrick, which is status. His brother easily gets, and he doesn't even appreciate it or care. So it kind of says this holy altar of yours means nothing. And it's
yeah.
true. So because no one ever talks about why Dorsey is important, great food or anything. It's just the
Yeah.
idea of,
It's
so
just
basically
it's
when
the unobtainable. It's the idea that you can't get in there, which means that we have to get in there because anyone who can get in there is obviously a force to be reckoned with.
like Sean Bateman.
Yeah.
Well, you could say, oh, well, he might know somebody or anything, but that's not the point. The point is that he doesn't give a shit and he can get in and it matters. Doesn't matter to him at all. And it means everything to Patrick. And the fact that they won't seat Patrick until
Yeah.
Sean arrives and Sean is late.
Yeah.
What are that and Chrissy saying this is much nicer than your other apartment is some of my favorite
Yeah.
Patrick Bateman burns. But in the early film, because I'm glad that you kind of saw this, where they go to the restaurant, the main boys like Bryce McDermott and
Yeah.
Patrick, and they're like, oh, there's Paul Allen or Paul Owen, depending on what version you're
Yeah.
talking about, Paul. And he does not, because we just see a sliver of him.
Yeah. You just
To
see.
me, I couldn't see a proof. Maybe you
Mhm.
have. That doesn't look like Jared Leto to me.
No, it doesn't. I noticed
Thank
it.
God, I'm not the only one.
Oh no, you are definitely on the right track because even when I was rewatching it, they say that's Paul Allen in the back. Even I was looking in there, I was like, that doesn't look like Jared Leto. Yeah,
Yeah.
at all. Yeah,
And
no, it
that's a
really
big
does.
point of the whole fucking, it's so
It's so
perfect.
perfect. It's so perfect. But to actually go to the answer to answer your question that you were alluding to in the beginning,
Hmm.
when it comes to different my feelings on the different iterations, I think the thing I really appreciated in terms of the differences of adaptation, especially with the musical ends on a much more and I will say this on a much more foreboding note for Patrick in the sense that he has basically buried himself even deeper into this hell. Specifically because in the musical, his relationship with Evelyn does go on all the way into marriage. And but it also comes to this fascinating point where Patrick is cognizant of the hell he's made for himself. So he tries to just do anything in order to give his life something resembling worth. So in my opinion, the smartness of emphasizing the role of Gene in the story, we do get a chance to see that Patrick, as yeah, it pains him to even think of anyone as a person, but Gene is like the only person who is making an effort to try to see Patrick as a human being. And I think Patrick, the reason why he can never kill Gene, especially in that brilliant scene with the nail gun, uh, it's because she's
I
the
don't
only
want to
one who,
hurt you.
yeah, and he can't. On one side, yeah, he hates the idea of someone trying to connect with him as an actual person, but he also can't kill her because how often that's like killing a unicorn. It's like you don't want to kill something that special of someone who sees him as more than even he sees himself. So I love that in the musical. Uh,
I didn't like, I'm not going to go deep into it. That's part of what I didn't like about the musical. I think it
uh,
gives him too much humanity and it gives him too much texture through the women in his life a lot,
mhm.
Jean especially, which I do like the idea of making the women more prominent, but go on.
Yeah, so but it's that idea that Patrick, because he doesn't feel himself in that level, because he sees himself as the monster that he is, and he knows it.
He thinks he's a monster, but he's just a monster consumer. He's not
Yeah,
even a monster. Look at
yeah,
those shoes in that scene. Look at those pearly white bleached shoes that probably cost $3,000 if
yeah.
not more for no reason. He's accessorized even
Mm,
when he's supposed to be in his most primal form of I'm the ultimate killer, I'm the ultimate predator. he's accessorized.
He's just
You
still
know, he's the
accessorizing.
ultimate consumer.
I'm still accessorizing because I want to make sure I'm running real good. I'm in like comfortable running shoes while I'm
And
taking.
nobody's watching. Nobody
Yeah,
knows if he wears the shoes, but it matters to him.
yeah, and she's running around banging doors, chainsaws revving. No one is coming out of their apartments to investigate. That's the kind of world that they're living in, where no one gives a shit about each other, that they're gonna like investigate or even try to intervene to stop Patrick of what he,
Or it didn't happen,
or
which
it didn't happen. So the great thing, so with the ending of the musical, Patrick uh ends up just because he's just resolute to the fact that he has absolutely no idea and that he does not deserve anything resembling legit affection from someone who sees him as a person. Just and because he feels that he is so bound and that he's trapped and that yeah, he has no exit, he decides to marry. He just goes on and marries Evelyn, just burying himself in the personal hell that he has made for himself and that he can never escape. And just the repeat of the major line, you know, this is what being Patrick Bateman means to me, is like in the end, I'm nothing. Or as he says in all versions, I simply don't exist. Even in the final closing number, he says, I simply don't exist
and he
because
doesn't.
he doesn't. And
He
in the end,
tried to exist and he realized it was all fake.
yeah, if it happened that he did open up to Jean, she would see him as even if he didn't actually kill anybody, she would see him as inevitably see him as the monster he is, and that she was barking up the wrong tree. And I think he's aware of that. I think he knows damn well he is not good for her. And all he could basically do is try to at least improve on her life, or at least what he thinks is an improvement. Because for all intents and purposes, all he basically did is kind of in the musical, he gives her a promotion. He enables it so she gets a promotion. Well, in the idea, but unfortunately, the major problem is, did he basically just condemn her to his life, so to speak, by giving her that promotion?
Possibly.
Yeah, and it's like the one thing that he thinks is a generous gesture, but all he knows is status, and all he knows that he feels that everyone to make them better is status. He doesn't realize that sometimes to do something good for someone, it doesn't involve monetary gain. But yet in
Well,
the
the
end,
fact he did something good for somebody is a big difference. Like in
hmm,
the end of the book and the film, he says, I want nothing but to inflict the pain that I feel on
hmm,
everyone else. And
yeah,
even though in the book and the musical, his father was absentee, obviously, father wounds,
hmm,
um, which Bret Easton Ellis talks about a lot about his father wounds.
uh,
Not judging, not judging.
hey, we've
You
all
know,
got father wounds.
yeah, my dad's been dead for 10 years. Fuck him.
Yeah.
Uh, he wasn't a bad person.
We just did an episode we just aired an episode on the stepfather where I speak at length about my dad. So, go to that
I
episode,
saw that.
everybody.
I haven't
Huh?
seen the episode, but I saw you promoting it.
Yeah.
Um, but and the mother is present in both the book and in the musical, very much in the musical, even on a bench with Jean and the
Hmm.
mother, and it's kind of like the song I interpreted as, is there any way Patrick can be reached? Which, it
Hmm.
stays true to the character. He can't be.
Yeah.
But to me, I like to think of Patrick, even in the movie, we know he had a dad and he obviously had a mother and he
Yeah.
comes from wealth. I like to think that he like just hatched out of a Tom Ford or Versace egg. You know what I mean? I just like to think of him that way. And
I
so
like it.
what do you think is the biggest difference in the book from the movie and everything else?
Well, I think to me I think it's less of a difference really because frankly all of them do in the end come to the same point where Patrick is pretty much permanently trapped in a hell of his own making, and it doesn't really matter one way or another if he's killed anyone or not because in the end he's just trapped in a
Yes.
box screaming. So that's why I think all the adaptations work because all of them are astute enough to come to the same point. The only real major difference, if you really wanted to whittle it down, is the fact that the book is brutal as fuck and is vivid in its descriptive imagery
Violence.
of the violence because it can.
Giant rat eating a
Oh,
woman alive vagina first.
oh,
Uh,
baby. Art
so
the
it is
Clown,
clearer that
Art the
he
Clown,
is
London.
not all there much faster in the book.
Mhm.
And sorry, I interrupted you.
No, that's okay. No, I was just gonna, just make the observation, like, Patrick Bateman, I'd say has that over Art the Clown in terms of the level of sadism. I mean, yeah, Art the Clown did the whole rat thing down the mouth, but I'm like going, no, Patrick Bateman, right up her cooch. I was like, damn, that's
It
even
was
more.
a giant rat too.
Yeah, it was a New York rat.
It was a monster rat that kept growing.
Yeah.
In Patrick's mind. So I told somebody I'm like, they're like, what are you doing this weekend? And I mentioned, oh, I'm doing a recording with my friend John about American
Hey.
Psycho. I'm really excited. And they're like, isn't that a movie that kind of they hadn't seen it? So they weren't
Uh-huh.
judging, they were asking real questions. And they're like, isn't that kind of a movie where it's like all a dream, basically? And I said, well, it's not all a dream, but yes, there is the because they didn't mind spoilers. There is the question of did the murders happen or not, but that's not the point of the film at
Yeah.
all. Whether he did the murders or not is totally irrelevant. And he's like, how? And I'm like, you haven't seen it. And I'm a big nerd about this.
Yeah.
There's a lot of explaining to do, but I do say I can understand on a first watch, especially when you're not exactly sure where
Mhm.
you're going to get, but it's so famous now. Most people probably know the ending even if they haven't seen it.
Yeah.
Is a bummer like, oh, it could have not been real, but that's not the point of the story,
Yeah.
is whether he's a murderer or not. So that and but I feel it's both everything happened and both everything didn't happen. That's where we can talk about. There's two characters that really show up different in um from not across all, but
Mhm.
the realtor, Miss or Mrs.
Yeah.
Wolf, is far more, and maybe you can take it from me from there. In the musical, and she also plays Patrick's mother, and Patrick's
Mhm.
mother is also present briefly in the chapter Sandstone of the book. And I'm that's how much I've read the book, even though it's not my favorite adaptation, because I lent it to somebody years ago and never got it back. They
What?
did not return their videotapes. And now it's like so long that it's ridiculous for me to say something, so I have to buy a new copy. But, and the thing about his mother in the book, and I want you to elaborate on the musical
Mhm.
because you know it, but I did watch it. But is she does the only thing that is genuine besides her just glossing over, whatever social norms, is she asks Patrick if he's happy, and he just
Mhm.
passes over that. And then she also goes into social norms of the weather and all that stuff. And she's in a home. Um, and she's doing okay for an older person living in a
Yeah.
home. But yeah, so it's a interesting conversation there. But and the actress, which I know the actress that plays the realtor, which big part of the book, the movie, and a lot of people, and the musical, where people are like, oh, that's the key to finding out whether it's real. Which I think that scene with the realtor in supposedly what was Paul Allen's apartment that had all these bodies in it that Patrick killed, is
Mhm.
that she's mythic a little bit. I don't think
Yeah.
she's supernatural, but the fact she knows Patrick doesn't belong there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
whether
because
the
she's
murders happened
constantly.
or not, everything's been painted over white.
Yeah.
Whatever existed there before doesn't exist. And I love it's so awkward when she says, and Patrick is leaving, and you can see him through the door frame in the film, and she says, "Don't come back." And he says, "I won't."
Yeah.
And I think it's a very deep thing. So can you tell me more about because you're more well versed in the musical, of the role of his mother and the role of Mrs. Wolf, played by the same actress in the
Yeah.
musical?
Oh, yeah. I believe Alice Ripley was the actress who played the mother and the realtor in the musical. Wonderful Broadway actress. If I remember correctly, she was in the original cast of Sideshow, beautiful musical about the Hilton sisters who were in Todd Browning's Freaks. But beautiful musical. I strongly recommend it. But well, they did. Now, I remember when they transitioned the show over to America, they were talking about making cuts, and a lot of people kept saying, like, cut the stuff with mom. It's
Oh,
like,
just so folks know, I saw the American Broadway version. I didn't see the London version.
well, the London version was, I'd say the quintessential version of it is the Broadway version because they added a lot more stuff to it. The opening number "Selling Out," which I think is one of the It- the musical was composed by Duncan Sheik, who did Spring Awakening, but the opening number, "Selling Out," I think was a very important addition because I think it first off, it's a great mood setter to the piece. Really sums up what the music's going to be like, but also really sums up the philosophy, not just of Patrick, but of the whole world that he inhabits. But anyway, so it was to me, it was an important thing keeping Patrick's mom in there, especially in that song. It's a gorgeous song called "A Nice Thought," where his mom's talking about the ideal of what she saw Patrick as when he was a kid. She saw him as an angelic kid. She saw him as a beautiful. So it's lending the idea that
Hey, but still looks matter, huh? You know what I
yeah,
mean? Like a picture of a beautiful child,
exactly.
you
And
know, got blue, but doesn't she even mention he had blonde hair or something like that?
yes, exactly. And but there's a foreboding sense that maybe she is painting an image of what she wanted Patrick to be. And instead, there's a possibility, very real possibility that she is fully aware of what he is and what kind of monster he is. And as the musical, and what a great joke in the musical where he says,
Hmm.
where Evelyn goes, "I think your mother hates me." "No, she's just heavily medicated," which is a great freaking line. But a lot of that is to me about the fact that she's aware of the monster, what monster he is. So the idea that, and of course, lending the credence to the notion that um, that a lot of this, that the murders did happen, or even that the idea that the murders did happen, it could be said that she was the one who arranged for the paint for Paul Allen's apartment to be cleaned up, or on the other side, if the murders did not happen and that all of it's the product of Patrick's repressed rage and madness, the idea that the actors playing the realtor doing it at the same time could also just be him projecting on just the idea, the
Yeah,
notion,
she could not be real as well, but in the
or
movie, it's so well done because it's an
yeah.
odd, they're both odd in the
Hmm.
scene.
Yeah, it's a surreal moment when he goes in there and sees because realistically, we saw the horrible things Patrick did in that apartment.
The yuppie scum blood
I
and
mean,
all the bodies.
he's got bodies all over the place. That place would be uninhabitable for a good amount of time. So, I mean, the
If
movie,
people knew. So the
yeah,
idea is like if it happens, it's like it's easily painted over. And she needs to
exactly.
sell this place. Don't you dare. Don't you dare make this place unsellable. It's worth
Yeah,
something. And all those lies, who cares? And if it didn't happen, it still has
yeah.
the same message.
You could, yeah. Actually, I'm glad we're talking about this because you could even say it had nothing to do with Patrick, like at all, in terms of why the place is clean and spotless. You could even say that because, again, and they make sure to point out that Paul's apartment is nicer than Patrick's. And a lot of it's not even just because I'm going to say it, I'd say Patrick keeps a nicer apartment in terms of
I
just,
like his style more, even though it's fake,
even though it's
that he
fake
has no
and,
style, but I prefer his apartment actually.
but,
And
but
it's
the other
higher
thing,
up.
But the other thing they keep pointing out is in terms of Paul's status, his apartment is overlooking Central Park and it's right next to the Guggenheim Museum. So
That is a more
status-wise,
expensive
it
property,
is a
yes.
more expensive property. So it could even be said that because he lives where he lives and because he does, and because, well, let's face it, having a murder apartment would be detrimental to the building on the whole. So you could even say that the people who run the apartment complex probably got complaints about noise, smells. In all likelihood, they probably went in, investigated, and saw, oh my God, we need to keep this under the rug.
We need to erase it. It didn't happen. Whether it
Exactly.
happened or not, it didn't happen. Wink, wink. It didn't
Yeah,
happen. This is a very valuable property. It didn't happen. Don't come back. I won't.
I won't. So you could even say just because it's Patrick's world and it's because this is the social class that he deals with, that in all likelihood they buried it for practically the same reasons why anyone would ever hide the fact of what of their true nature because they don't want people getting wanting it getting out. But the problem is you repress that kind of rage and madness, you become and you can see Patrick just unraveling because it's like I can't even show people the evidence of the shit I did because it's all gone and I can't express myself. I can't the in the end the only thing that would have made him interesting as an individual is that I'm a freaking serial killer and I can't even prove that anymore.
And even that is influenced by the porn he watched. And he's even when he has sex, it's not like he's enjoying sex. It's more of like enjoying the act that I can do this and I look
Mhm.
good doing it.
Yeah, as evidenced
So
by, of course, the classic shot of him, like the camera focusing on him as he's pointing. Yeah, all that. Just
So it's like, but even the idea of him being a murderer, the ultimate predator, or what have you, is from the porn. And I'm not saying horror and porn causes these things.
no.
Definitely not. But I'm saying that it's like nothing about him is real. Everything about him is something he's consumed. So
Mhm.
even when that is something he believes he does, Patrick doesn't reflect, isn't smart enough or self-aware enough to,
Yeah.
reflect that. But I think it's, easy to say as somebody who watches it. And it's kind of like his way of feeling like he's different.
Mhm.
He's different, but he's not. He's
Yeah.
not. And it's that's his personal hell. And whether he kills people later on after the movie or not, it's irrelevant. He's gonna end up in the same place with no consequences
Mhm.
and no real exit.
Yeah. And the worst thing of all is that if he is truly a killer, he will easily go on and keep killing until ultimately a day comes where a victim gets one over on him and kills
Hmm.
him. And then, but even worse is that because of his social class, everyone's gonna say like, "Oh my God, someone killed that poor white stockbroker."
Hmm.
And it's and
And he makes the murder that matters the most to him. Because, and in the book, he kills children, he kills puppies.
yeah,
And the murder that matters the most is because to him, that guy, that Paul Allen or Paul Owen, depending on which version. In the movie, he's Paul Allen. I can't remember what he is in the book because somebody borrowed it and didn't
yeah,
give it back to me. But in the musical, it's Paul Owen, but it's
yeah.
irrelevant. Paul, because he perceived Paul to be above him, but Paul really even wasn't. He had a
No,
different business card with a watermark. He got the Fisher account, which people can
because
lie.
he was friends with the right people at the right time. That's all there is to it.
They basically were the same person.
Yeah,
And he had a better apartment,
yeah.
a better location. Um, so, this idea that Paul was above him is like the fact that he's like, but I'm the predator. I have this control. It's about control.
Yeah.
And he has no control over his life and the world he lives in.
Mhm. Well, there's even a fantastic side to the whole scene where the lawyer tells him that he had dinner with Paul a couple weeks ago in London. But again, he doesn't
He
even
made that voicemail that Paul, after he kills Paul, he made that voicemail saying, "I'm gonna be in London for a few weeks,
yeah.
hasta la vista," which was so fucking funny
Oh
because
yeah.
that probably is
Oh
something
yeah.
Paul would have said.
Yeah. But ultimately, the lawyer doesn't even recognize Patrick as himself and doesn't even believe
He
Patrick
calls
is
him
actually
Davis, and he's like,
yeah, he calls
"That
him
was the one
Davis.
flaw in your joke. Like Patrick Bateman is a spineless loser. I mean, that was your one flaw in your joke." And he's like, "I am Patrick." So
So
the
what's
idea
your
is,
yeah.
did he
Did he
actually
actually
see
have dinner
Paul
with
in
Paul?
London? Who knows? Because nobody knows who anybody
Yeah.
is, and they're all basically the same person.
Yeah, I mean, I know the layman always had like complaints about Willem Dafoe's about Kimball because they're like, well, what comes of that as like the whole point is the fact that there's no way his investigation is ever going to turn up fruit because Patrick doesn't even know where he's been. Everyone thinks one or the other. I mean, even Paul Allen th kept thinking that Patrick was Marcus Halberstram, and even in his appointment book saying, I had a dinner date with Marcus Halberstram.
And that same scene, Willem Dafoe as detective, what do you say his last name
Kimball,
is?
Kimball,
Kimball. He says, well, Marcus was actually at this restaurant.
with
Where were
you,
you? And then he mentions the other people at the table at that restaurant, and one of them was Patrick Bateman. So he is
Bateman.
placed somewhere that is an alibi.
Yeah, even if it wasn't true. That's the sad part because no one
Yeah,
knows each other because no one has any real concept of what their identities are, that people just assume that other people are just there. It's
they're
so
part of the machine. They're consumers.
yeah.
They're, you
There's
know,
a
uh,
yeah,
they're so boring. Oh my
yeah,
God, can you
there's
imagine? So bored.
oh
All
I
their
can
conversations of like just
I would
about getting a reservation and wow,
yeah.
I couldn't do it.
Yeah, there's
I
a
wouldn't mind the money though.
I definitely wouldn't mind the money. I mean, everyone wouldn't mind the money. But I wanted to actually point that since we're talking about Kimball, there's a great bit of direction on Mary Harron's part, which I think is absolutely wonderful. Not only direction, but also great editing. In all the scenes with Kimball, in his conversations with Patrick, people know. notice that there's an odd inconsistency with Defoe's performance. That's because in all three of the scenes, they did three separate takes with Willem Dafoe. One where Kimball is very much like convinced that it's Patrick, another one where he's totally oblivious, and another one where he's suspicious. And they decided to really mess with the audience's sense of reality of the scene. They deliberately edited all the drastically different performances together in one scene. So it makes people unsure of where Kimball stands with Patrick. They
Yes.
deliberately, that's what they did.
It was so smart. So
So
smart.
yeah,
Because there's a good chance that character doesn't even exist.
there's,
Who knows? He
yeah.
does and he doesn't. To Pat, because in the end, all of this existed to Patrick, and he
Mhm.
still is vapid, empty, hollow in the same vapid world. He has no identity, and he knows he has no identity. So do you think he's a little more self-aware than the other? Not smart,
Hmm.
not cunning, but not better, but a tiny bit more self-aware how empty he is.
I would say I would like to believe that yes, especially like in the beginning when he says there's an idea of Patrick Bateman.
I
I
am
would like to believe
simply not there.
there. So there's a very real possibility that he is aware of it and that a lot of his aggression comes from the fact that either A, he can't express it, or B, just because, he can. So there's an idea that he loves the status, loves the where he is, and just loves the privilege, but there is also just the reality of just the fact that no one really understands him on any sort of humanistic level. And even worse is that for anyone who even tries to connect with him, whether it be Lewis, like assuming that he with on that side, or even just the fact that Gene tries to get to know him as well, there is that just that very real possibility that he's also scared of the idea of someone finding out the real him. And
Which he doesn't he knows there's no real him.
mm,
And I think but that's where I think it ends because Patrick is lame, and that's he's supposed to be. That's the
yeah,
point. That's why it's funny. Well, that's one of the many reasons it's funny. But is that I think he's only like he just reaches that level to be self-aware enough that he is empty, but then I don't think he's able to process it at all. So when Lewis thinks like, oh, yes, this is a confirmation we have a thing, and has a real tries to have a real moment with Patrick. He is like almost in shock
yeah,
because he
he's
can't
mortified.
process someone's real emotion, someone's
Yeah,
real, and like even when Evelyn's crying, even though he doesn't care about her, he's like, she's making a scene. I can't handle this. I'm leaving.
he
You
can't
know.
he can't confront any legit human interaction like act like any attempts he could possibly make about being a person. He's so terrified about the idea of doing that that he has to always try to avoid it any means possible. Yeah, I mean any other human may confront the reality that he might be gay, but Patrick, a also because unfortunately he's part of that societal group that condemns being gay, unfortunately, because again this is still the 80s and AIDS was like a very hot topic around this time. Well,
You
you were right.
can't catch dyslexia that way. It's not a virus.
That whole tirade. Okay, I have to give love
They're
to
so dumb.
Justin Theroux. The way he delivers that shit is so great. I love the way he delivers that with conviction, where he believes that all of that is true. It's like I can't. I don't think you can get this. Like I don't think it's a
It's
virus,
not a virus.
not a virus.
You can't. It's not a
Yeah.
STI. No.
Though there's one thing that the musical does do that the movie does not, and I was honestly surprised, given especially given the fact that Guinevere Turner is an outspoken queer activist, but um it kind of blew my mind that they left the entire subplot about Lewis and his queerness. They just keep it to that one scene, and then they just leave it in the dust afterwards. But in the book and the musical, they see it through to its fruition. There's a scene that in the book reads extremely awkward, and the musical, bless it, does a great job capturing that, where Lewis confronts him, I think at Bloomingdale's, and just has a massive breakdown. Just
I'm sure it's not Barney's.
or Barney's, one of the.
Just kidding with you. It
What
doesn't
difference is
matter.
it?
Yeah, I know. It doesn't matter.
Exactly.
This
In
is
the
my
end, what
joke.
difference is it? But there's a whole part where he just completely breaks down, where he is finally trying to get Patrick to confront who Lewis thinks he is, or he may very well be. That's the fascinating idea is that I will say this, another thing that that neither the movie or the musical alludes to it a little bit more, but the book just balls out, commits to it, is the fact that Patrick, yes, is homophobic as hell, racist as hell. And even though I love how in the movie Patrick tells them to lay off the anti-Semitism, no, Patrick is just as anti-Semitic as the rest of them. He's just virtue
He's
sick.
it's the mask of what, the socially aware person says.
Yeah.
But
Oh
it's
yeah.
hollow. And one thing I thought about, because we know that his reviews, they're not really personal.
Mhm.
And they're, it's he's just talking at people. It's usually people he's gonna murder. Um and there's more of it in the book. And
Oh, this
it's
whole
usually a little
chapter.
longer, but the way I thought of it in a modern way is like it's almost like he got a chat GPT or something description of, why is this album important? As a person, it's not just, a state of the times and trends, but it's also a statement about the band itself, which is
Yeah.
something, I say shit like that too, but I mean the point I think for Patrick is that it's it doesn't mean anything. And with sex, whether gay, bisexual, straight, I don't think he has he can't internalize something as sexual besides his own grandiose about himself. Like I
Yeah.
I don't like to put labels on characters where there aren't, but if I had to point it out, I think he's probably more ace than anything else.
Yeah. I think yeah,
Which that is not I am not putting
oh,
I'm demisexual. I'm part of the
I'm
ace
ace.
umbrella. I'm
I'm
not
ace, so
putting
that's
that
fine.
next to psychosis and not feeling for people.
Yeah.
That is not what I am
It's,
doing, just so everyone knows.
I
But for
mean,
Patrick specifically, it just seems like sex doesn't even he never connects with anyone through sex. It's
I,
just
yeah. Oh, I think, well, here's the thing I've always no, I mean, we had a whole thing about it, but sex is also a power thing as well. So,
mhm.
Patrick, and as we've seen from the scenes where he's like looking at himself in the mirror, he is more obsessed with what of how he's having sex and just who he's having sex with. That's why he's in a relationship with Courtney because people like him have sex with illegitimate affairs all the time. There's even a real possibility that Evelyn's probably sleeping around with other people.
I think he mentions it, yeah.
Yeah, he believes that she's sleeping around with another person,
And he doesn't care,
but
obviously.
and that's why but he's doing all this because that's what's expected of people in his social class to have promiscuous affairs with a lot of either illegitimate affairs, illicit women, and the people who you are quote unquote supposed to be committed to because society demands that you're supposed to be in committed relationships. You are not emotionally connected with in any shape, way, or form. All the scenes with him and Evelyn are cold as hell. And even if you see Evelyn try,
That's my favorite joke in the musical, which I already said, is like, she's like, well, we need to get married. And he's like, and she's
oh,
like, well, we need to have a wedding because that's
oh
what she
no,
wants. That's
one
what
of
she
the
wants.
yeah, one of the best songs. Actually, I would even say the best stage, both on the Broadway version, and I even got to see a production of it in my local in
Lucky.
nearby. Oh, great production.
Even though I didn't care for it that much, just because I am such a purist to the film, it's more of a
Hmm,
snobbery on my side than it not being a good thing.
that's entirely
It's
fine.
a it's a preference because it's just presented in a different way.
Oh
And
yeah,
it focuses on certain different things, but it is definitely the same story.
oh it absolutely is. But there's a great song where Patrick and Evelyn are sitting at Les Mis, and Jean, by coincidence, happens to be there as well. And it's all about the alternating perspectives on what would happen if Patrick and Evelyn did get married. And you're seeing the three different perspectives on it, where you have Patrick, of course, like, God damn it, I want to kill everyone in this room right now. And then but Evelyn is romanticizing the idea of getting married, not even because she loves Patrick, but because she loves what it will mean for her on a status level. And then you have Jean, who's like saying, maybe getting married might be good for him. I'd be bummed out about it, but I feel like he would probably be able to settle down a heck of a lot better if he did. So it's
No,
three different
she's
people.
wrong.
No, oh, she's absolutely wrong because again, she doesn't know.
The
No,
real Patrick, which there is no real Patrick at the same
yeah.
time.
I
Like
mean,
how vapid he is.
yeah, strictly a creation in the movie is the scene where Gene goes into his desk and finds his planner,
With
grabs it.
all the like drawings of women's bodies being disfigured and all that
Yeah,
stuff.
exactly. So that's really the first real moment that she has an understanding of the idea of what really is going through his head. And even more so, yeah, so but and then even then lending to the ambiguity, that could everything that we saw, all the violence he committed, that could all just be him drawing that shit in that book. That just could be what he's fantasizing about. I mean, hell, after the chainsaw thing, the first thing we do is cut straight to him drawing that exact scenario on a placemat.
Hmm.
So that all could lend just the idea that this is all just his fantasies that he's just writing down in his little planner because
But
he
it's all real to Patrick.
yeah,
That's why it doesn't matter to me, the realness of it.
yeah,
And I think it is meant to be completely ambiguous, even though that's a hint.
yeah,
Very good observation on your point, because I didn't notice that, is that it could just be all in his head,
mhm,
but it could be just him reveling in the moment. And a lot of people like to point out it's an unrealistic scene, right? That nobody is coming out, or nobody's like think yelling, or there's nobody calls the cops,
yeah,
and there's no way a chainsaw would go land like that on her, you know?
yeah,
And but it's supposed to be unrealistic. In the book, unrealistic things happen much quicker. So you have the idea that he is not like he has like this giant rat he keeps that eats a woman alive, and we know, okay, giant rat isn't real because it gets bigger and bigger.
yeah,
So we have more of a preparation for him being even more of an unreliable narrator. And
precisely.
and I don't think, because if you think, who does Patrick care about? And I don't think Patrick even cares about Patrick. He's
No,
a vessel. He is empty, and he has just as much self-awareness to know he is a vessel and empty, and that in itself is his torture chamber.
hmm,
Because he cannot process it any more than, I am empty. I am vapid. This is hell.
yeah.
That's it.
And even all of his efforts to try to escape it, specifically just by going on a self like one thing that's great in the movie, and there's a whole song called I Am Back in the musical, which is kind of basically the equivalent, where Patrick one of the best bits is Patrick going on a full-blown gun-toting rampage at the tail end, starting with him having the delusion of the ATM saying, "Feed me a stray cat,"
Hmm.
which, get don't feed him that kitty. But anyway, but then just goes on a great gun-toting rampage. But I think the best moment that tells you this, something's odd about how this is going.
The
When,
noise of the
well, the
helicopters.
noise of
Yeah.
the helicopters, but the fact that he opens fire on the cops, he doesn't get shot at all, even though he's just standing still. But even more so is that also another thing I'm noticing, he hasn't had to swap out his clip like once. And I'm pretty sure the amount of bullets he fired, there's not enough bullets in that gun. But even more so that he sets off a car explosion. And he looks at the gun like going, really? Um,
To me, nobody but Christian Bale, which I know that's not correct, but because it's one of my favorite movies and one of my favorite performances, I have a bias. But it's fun because just because I've watched the movie so much, this is not a criticism. It's kind of funny. His accent slips.
oh yeah.
What when he's saying, and I killed a girl with a chainsaw, and it's that Aussie,
Yeah.
just that one word. And so why, this is a hard question, I think. Maybe it's an easier question for you. Why do you think he has a breakdown?
I firmly believe a lot of it is because he is so stifled by his life and that he's fully and as I none of this I don't think he would have this breakdown unless he was self-aware about how stifling his life is and just how suffocating it is. I think it's just the fact that and he keeps saying that my bloodlust just keeps getting worse and worse and worse and that there's
It's
nothing that
gotta kill a lot of people.
yeah, I think just flat out is
Guess
that
I'm a pretty sick guy.
it's the notion of repressed rage and just the idea that it's bubbling over and it's bubbling over and then
And
finally
control.
yeah, and just in time, he is just starting to lose control. I mean, you could say that he breaks up with Evelyn just because flat out he just doesn't. He's starting to gradually not give a shit anymore, and that he probably does that. And he does the whole gun toting rampage. He does the confession.
I think it's a cycle. I think it keeps happening, and whether it actually happens or not, he believes it's happening, everything. It's real to him. I just think it's Freud's trauma loop.
Yeah. Oh, in reality, you could even say that he's so defeated by the end of the movie that none of it meant anything. That he probably just goes back and defaults to where he was before, just because he's like, what was the point of that? Like, what was the point of doing any of that? I might as well just be a cog again. Just
And
back.
he says he wants to his pain onto others.
Yeah.
And like let's say none of it was real,
Mhm.
and he goes up to the lawyer and says, I did these murders. I am Patrick. You know me. We've talked on the phone. And mostly a person would be like, are you okay? Maybe we should go in another room, or, like, or think, but the lawyer just, it's like faux pas. It's like, oh, right, this is inappropriate socially. Ooh, like get
Mhm.
away from it. Like it was funny, but this is done now. It's because no one cares whether he killed somebody, whether he didn't kill somebody. He has no consequences. He has no punishment. No matter what he does, he is stuck
Yeah.
as a husk of a person, as an idea of a person that is Patrick Bateman.
Mhm. Yeah.
And I love that he's in hell. He sucks.
Yeah.
But I like the care. See that, like when
He-
people dress up as the character, they're like, you're not supposed to idolize that character. Some people do, but he's, especially when women dress up as Patrick Bateman, I prefer it. Not against any of the guys, but
oh yeah.
but it's like that's part of the costume is that he's lame, and
Yeah.
all women have been talked at, and anybody that's known me has been talked at like Patrick Bateman talks at people. You know what
Oh
I mean?
yes.
Yeah,
Again,
but you try
why?
to be more conscious, like, okay, eyes are glazing over. Oh, one of my favorite jokes in the movie, I'm a big extrovert, but I need a lot of personal time and space.
Of course.
And I love when sometimes you're busy carrying out a body and a Gautier bag, and you don't want to be seen or have to talk about it. You just want to get it done, and it's heavy and it's annoying. And then, Lewis shows up and it's like, Patrick, is that you? No, Lewis, it is not me. You are
Hey.
mistaken. It's one of my favorite jokes that actually comes from Patrick himself.
Yeah. I just love even more so. It's like, oh my God, is that the new Gautier bag? It's like, I was like, oh my God,
Yes.
so good. Oh, oh yeah, so bliss, such bliss. Oh, there was something I was gonna bring up in terms of the differences in the book to the musical, but I remember there was, yeah,
Because yeah, the musical is based more on the book.
yeah, that's the thing I was trying to tell people because there is a trend on Broadway where they're always like turning movies into musicals because they want to use the brand recognition and all that
I
stuff.
actually don't know Bret Easton's reaction to the musical. Do you know?
Actually, okay, everyone, there's a great YouTube channel called Wait in the Wings where they do a 45-minute documentary about, I'll send it to you later, but a great documentary about the history of the musical. Actually, from what I understand, they were timid to invite Bret Easton Ellis because they didn't know how he would respond to it, but they
He's
invited
an
him.
edgelord and he changes his opinions.
From what I understand, he did go to the musical when it was workshopping in London and loved it.
Hmm.
Apparently, he really, really loved it, and he said he did do a write-up saying praising the musical. So,
Mm.
so no,
He's
apparently,
never gonna let the canyons go.
or
Never.
I, I,
That's a whole other topic.
I'm sure, but um, no, apparently he did love the musical. Now the sad truth about the musical, and the reason why not enough people are talking about it, is that it did really well in London. It sold out its entire run in London, um, reviewed great. But then, and a lot of times this happens, unfortunately, when a musical makes a crossover over to Broadway, or to New York. A lot of things do get fucked up in the transition. In this instance, um, they wanted to start it off Broadway. I mean, the show's low to, and even more so, it would have been great because a lot of the audiences who would have loved the show could afford to go to a show off Broadway versus going to a show on Broadway. But because it did so well in London, a lot of the producers and a lot of the people who own the theater in New York, they said, "Well, we just got to jump straight to, we got to jump straight to Broadway, just straight Broadway." But unfortunately, the kind of audiences who would have jumped at American Psycho could not afford the Broadway rates. And
Which
unfortunately,
is funny considering what the movie and the musical and the book are about. It's
exactly. Oh no, that's the most ironic part of all. But unfortunately, the people who could afford Broadway rates are the kind of people who just would never love a musical of American Psycho. So it tanked financially. And when they lowered the only time the audiences who did love the show was when they lowered the prices to like half price, but that was not sustainable to keep the show open. So unfortunately, the show only ran for like 58 performances.
and funny enough, this is the only adaptation where people are like, there wasn't enough violence.
Which is,
Um, it's
but
the always the musical because they use lasers to look red, and we see
Well, there
Paul
is blood.
Allen's murder through like a screen. So I think I've never done a stage play. Look,
Mm,
I'm ignorant to it. I think because the humor becomes more obvious because
mm.
they have to, it's a stage version. And to me, the humor becomes a bit more obvious in a way that I honestly think they couldn't avoid.
Yeah.
So I like the subtlety of the film, but also I think they should have gone like the Evil Dead musical. They should have gone crazy with the violence, but in a way that it's stupid, like in Kill Bill when arms, which I know a lot of other films are
Mm.
chopped off, it just spurts blood, and you could just think that extra like that, like Patrick's annoyed that a piece of blood went right out off the newspaper on his carpet or
Well,
something like that.
I can
Or
definitely
Evil
see.
Dead 2, which I know is expensive and
Yeah.
hard to do on stage, but I would have loved it to lean in that as part of the humor more so than making more obvious jokes. I don't
Yeah.
think it's bad. I'm just a snob.
Oh, I know exactly what I was going to bring up in talking about it. One thing that in going back to what we were talking about Patrick's, stifling and just the idea that he, tries his best to try to like just be a cog, is there's a whole sequence that's not in the movie, but in the book and in the musical where they go to the Hamptons,
Oh yeah.
where they fly out to the Hamptons and uh, there's a whole scene and actually gorgeously staged where you just see like vertical
Oh,
of
the sets were fantastic.
yeah, that's the one thing I love about. Well, I think that kind of answers your question about why they didn't go hard on the. Well, I will tell you now from experience, blood on stage is a pain in the ass, and it's also dangerous, especially in a musical. That's the reason why.
Oh yeah, you had to clean the stage before the
Well, not
next
only to
scene.
clean, but also if you're doing dances, blood can be slippery as well. That's another reason why it's dangerous. In fact,
Oh, I know.
that's why when in the original stage production of Carrie, unfortunately, they couldn't just do a bucket just dropping blood on.
Wasn't that
They
very short-lived?
Oh, that's legendarily one of the greatest flops. But then when they did the revival off Broadway, where they retooled the show, they did a really cool silhouette effect, the bucket, and then they just changed the filter to red. Uh, so the entire stage is like blood red. And then just later on, when she's off stage, she comes back on again. She's covered in blood to fix that. But they do a kind of great abstract thing, but they deliberately do the whole stage in a very abstract way. Now, there is practical blood for a lot of the scenes. For Paul Allen's kill, and this is actually a funny story. They even write it in that Patrick flips a switch and a whole screen comes down. But they did fire blood onto that screen when he kills him. But the thing that's hilarious is that there was one performance where that screen didn't go down fast enough, and the blood shot out onto the audience. So that was that part was pretty funny. But there's a whole now I forget where they cited this, but there's a whole art piece called where a bunch of rats trapped in a barrel or something like that, and all of them like kind of had their tails tied together in a kind of like a spiral formation. There's in the aforementioned song "I Am Back," where Patrick's going on a big old killing spree, like when he comes back from the Hamptons, because Hamptons was so freaking stifling. But if you notice the way that all the bodies are all bloody and messy, they're all end up landing in a formation very similar to that image of the rats with their tails tied together kind of thing. And for the remainder of the show, from that point on, Patrick is in his skivvies, covered in blood, the entire time. But he's doing all these scenes, and no one is like acknowledging that him in this state because that's for all intents and purposes that's what we're seeing Patrick's mental state in that moment. So the musical opted for staging's sake to play it more abstract by comparison. So it was a lot more about delving into his mind on a more visual level. In
We
many
get a lot more internal narration. Even though there's a
precisely,
lot in the book and the movie, it just feels a little harder in the stage production. But
yeah,
and I think a big part of, correct me if I'm wrong, why Jean's character is so prominent and how she feels is because he needs, in a stage production, they kind of need that mirror,
precisely.
right? Hmm.
Yeah. Oh, exactly. No, you nailed it. You nailed it right there. I mean, and it was everything in general was just a smart move in terms of what they did. And yeah, a lot. I have seen the production, and oh, I mean, I've seen the Broadway and the and another production, and I will say there are moments where I wish it was tighter in terms of pacing. But I like the creative when they were told to make cuts. I'm like going, yeah, but I can't really understand because all of it is in aid of a pretty damn complex psychological study of this man. And it's like you can't cut it because everything here is essential towards that character development. So it's like you can't. It's editing editing is not easy, especially on a story level, especially on a scripting level. It's like you got to make sure, can I actually cut this or will it be a detriment to the movie? But the problem is with Hollywood, and the problem is with like the higher the budget, is that when you got so many fingers in the pies, a lot of times those fingers are attached to people who do not understand the nuances of proper storytelling, especially when it's a character study.
Especially when it's horror as well.
Yeah, I mean, so it was really an advantage to Mary Harron that the budget got cut to 7 million, because when a studio doesn't sweat a lower studios don't sweat a lower budget because there's not much of a loss there. So, and in the long run, even though the movie wasn't like a widespread massive commercial success, the
But
movie
it's cult now. Well, it's not really cult anymore, but it's considered cult to general
yeah,
masses. Like to people like you and me, no, it's
yeah,
a basic
but
film. But it didn't, one thing I know, it didn't do well at all. And part of that is the trailer made it seem like, and I did not experience this, and I've seen the trailer, it makes it seem like it's a slasher. So people
yeah,
went in and that's what I thought. But I
yeah.
loved that what it was. People went in expecting something different, and of course, when they're expecting something to be a slasher, the fact that all of the violence might not have even happened is
Mm,
disappointing, and so it
yeah.
doesn't do well. Which, I don't disagree. Especially if you go in expecting that movie, I understand.
Oh
You
yeah,
know.
trailers are yeah, yeah, me and my friend Tally, I mean, got into it talking about how deceptive a trailer can be, especially when it's cut together by people who aren't 100% receptive to the movie. But technically, because the movie was made for 7 million, it made about 34 million, so it still turned in a profit. Technically, but that's honestly the real reason why studios go in for horror, because it's cheap and usually more often than not tends to be a good return, even if the movie's not good. So movie still did well, but it just didn't do the gangbusters that they probably thought it would have done had they cast Leo in the movie. But
I don't have nothing. I have nothing against Leonardo DiCaprio. I think one of my favorite jokes, it was someone hosting the Oscars. I'm not sure. She made a joke about how he always dates younger women. She's like, "I'm sorry I did a low blow joke like that, but literally no one knows anything else about you." And I'm like, I wonder if he could have been Patrick Bateman actually. Because
yeah,
I'm not saying he's like Patrick Bateman. He's a private person.
mhm,
I
yeah,
respect that, but it makes me think maybe it would have been interesting if he played that character. And
yeah,
even though Christian Bale's 25, playing a 27-year-old,
hmm,
for some reason Leo just reads as younger to me, even though
yeah,
he's about the same age as Christian Bale. I think Christian Bale might be a tad. I don't know.
yeah. Now
They're
here's
very close in age.
yeah, I mean the great now I suppose it's a good way to kind of like talk about the legacy of the film, and especially in terms of the impact. Christian Bale, even though yeah, the movie wasn't like a massive gangbusters hit, it still everyone kept telling Christian Bale not to do it. Everyone kept like saying for him not to do this movie, but he wanted to do this movie because he felt that this was something he knew that would push him in a whole new direction. Because prior to this, he was the guy from Newsies. He was the guy. He just did all these other
Extra, extra.
yeah, I God, what was it? I'm the king in New York, song. But anyway, um,
Hey, I love Paul Williams, but he was going.
hey, oh, don't get me started on the genius of Paul Williams, man. I love that man. But actually, finally, fan of the Paradise musical, and he's super, and he's spearheading it. So thank
Oh,
you.
that's been forever. But is it actually happening with Guillermo del Toro like it's supposed to?
No, apparently it's going to be on Broadway, and that Paul Williams is like spearheading. Like, I think I wouldn't be surprised if the
It's been
success.
a rumor for a long time, but is there actually talk that it's
I
gonna
think
be
they, well, I
real?
think after the success of the Lost Boys, I think there's finally been some traction, getting it moving.
I'm
But
gonna live under the stage.
oh, baby,
Uh,
um, I there's a little part of me like going, do I want to take the risk, fly out there and try to audition for Winslow? Maybe I don't know.
Winslow, I'm in love with him.
Uh, but,
Phantom of the
yeah,
Paradise is known within our circles, right? But not as, but one day, and I hope it happens, and I think it will happen. It'll be one of those movies that people maybe of a younger generation or hadn't seen it somehow. Because first time I saw it, I had to watch it in pieces on YouTube in like
yeah,
2007 or something like that,
uh,
or 2006.
yeah,
Um, is It's gonna be more like Repo. Well, I guess
Mhm.
it's on the same level as Repo right now, but
Well,
it's going to be like people will feel they've discovered it, which I like when that
I will.
happens.
Oh, I
I
love it
like
when that
it.
happens.
I think everyone should experience Phantom of Paradise, whether they like it or not.
Absolutely. No,
Whether you like it or not.
anyone who doesn't like it, I can't help you. I'm sorry. It's one of the
I
most
know. Hey,
it's one
look,
of the most
we
intricate.
know on the third and at the third act, it's cheap that Winslow watches all these videotapes and because they need Winslow to figure out the how he's going to save in the end, but we don't fucking care.
Care because it's gonna get a great
Shut
climax
up.
afterwards, you know? So it's like, but funny enough, that kind of leads us to like the last thing that's wonderful about the legacy of American Psycho is that you know what it did happen with American Psycho, where it's a film that was definitely shunned, especially originally, just because people were disturbed by it. The book, the thing that is wacky about the whole legacy of American Psycho is that the book was reviled when it first came out. It was so
It still
like,
goes into ban like they still want to ban it from time to time.
yeah,
I,
exactly. I mean, in Australia, the book had to be wrapped in cellophane because they didn't want people in the bookstore to crack it open to read
can
it.
I ask you a question?
Uh-huh.
Because I'm in my own little bubble, right?
Uh-huh.
Is it that bad? I mean, the puppies part is really bad for me, but is it really that bad?
You know,
It is
it's
a lot of violence and it is graphic, but is it really that bad? Am I just
I
broken?
No, we're not. No, see, I'm not never going to say that we're broken. I'm flat out just going to say because we are in the horror biz, because
We're accustomed.
we are accustomed to it, and add on to it, I guarantee that we have seen worse. Now, and I will say, I did when I was listening to the audiobook. There were moments where I was
I
going,
gotta listen to the audiobook now.
yeah, yeah. The audiobook is great. I will say I don't know if it was a deliberate choice on the guy reading the book, but it cracked me up every time he kept mispronouncing Les Mis. He kept
Oh,
It
yeah.
cracked me up every time he was saying Les Miserables. It's like it's Les Miserables, buddy. Les Miserables. That's all you have to say. Just Les Miserables.
Or just say Les Mis. Just like
Yeah,
the
you're
Miz.
saying
If you can't pronounce that, just Les Mis is easy.
he was
And
saying it
one thing that
he was saying it like
probably
a guy.
everyone will know is that um, Christian Bale based his performance on Tom Cruise. And
Mhm.
in the book,
Oh, yes.
yeah,
Thank
in
you.
the book, he lives in the same building as Tom
Building.
Cruise. He never
Yeah.
sees Tom Cruise,
Oh.
but he's obsessed. Patrick Bateman in the book is obsessed with Tom Cruise. And
Mhm.
then, I don't know if it was the Oprah interview where he's jumping on the couch, but Christian Bale just seen some interview with Tom Cruise, something where it's just like all this smiling and everything, but like nothing behind the eyes.
Yeah.
And that's he based a lot of his performance as
Um.
Patrick Bateman on Tom
There.
Cruise himself.
Well, no, there is a scene. There is, and it's in the musical, but I believe it's in the book as well. No, it is in the book where he does have an encounter with Tom Cruise as he's walking his dog in the elevator. And the scene is
Oh,
so
that's right.
ridiculously cringe, and I love the scene because it really does show
It's
how
like Britney Spears when Justin Timberlake went for shiz for shiz.
yeah,
Like
it's such a perfect embodiment of the idea of how truly pathetic Patrick is, where here he is trying to sell himself out to be a paragon of his social class, but at the second he meets someone who is pretty, and we're gonna say it, Tom Cruise, he's had himself a crazy ass career. He's still widely respected. He's still considered to be like
he paid for
royalty.
that Scientology movie Battlefield, or I don't
No, he did
remember.
not. He did not pay for that.
No, but he did during the strike, or it might have been it might not have been that movie, but it was a movie where he paid staff, even though it was, COVID, whether it was COVID or
I
the
think it was,
writer's strike.
yeah.
So he made sure so he's done good things. He also has, helped aid David Miscavige hide a murder of a woman. So there are things.
There's bad thing, but the point being is that Tom Cruise is someone who has kind of been elevated to a godlike level for his own endeavors, whereas Patrick Bateman standing next to him, and in the scene it's so cringe because in the end he just talks with him pretty much like any other preening fan who just wants to do the whole like, oh, I'm your big
I forgot
fan.
that part. Someone
Yeah,
borrowed my
it's
book and didn't return their videotapes.
yeah. Oh, I just remember because the musical, Bless It, has that scene in there, and it's
Mm.
such a great, hilarious, awkward scene, and it's just, and a lot of it is just because Patrick's in his talking with him. Not only does he uh, fawn over him, but he
He's a
even,
simp.
He's a simp, and even worse is that he misidentifies one of Tom Cruise's movies because he calls it like a bartender, and he's like, no, the movie's called Cocktail. And yeah, so it's like
He's not even a real fan, but it means something to him to meet someone of status.
meet someone who, especially, and let's face it, in the 80s, Tom Cruise was freaking unstoppable
Oh, he was huge.
at that time. So it's like the idea that you pretty much shit yourself like and you just completely like eat shit in front of like the guy who was one of the embodiments of 80s royalty, 80s cinematic royalty at that time.
Hey, he loves to run, Tom Cruise. He loves running.
I'm not gonna lie, I wouldn't mind having his form and his capacity for. I'm blown away that he was still able to run even after messing up his foot when he made Mission Impossible Fallout. So it's like I'm yeah blown away by the guy's physical.
Well, he is kind of like Patrick Bateman, though. I don't know Tom Cruise. I
We
don't.
don't know.
But
So
there are questions. And that big rumor about fish, I don't think is true at all, but the fact that it's so gross and weird and it keeps popping up is kind of funny to me.
wait, rumor that what is he fuck fish or something? Is that the
Yeah.
rumor?
Yeah. And
I thought
there's
that was
like
Kanye West.
detailed accounts, like things that try to make like it seem really real. And people are like, oh, we saw this happen and saw this. There's no actual proof. But it's just
Oh,
weird to me that that's the thing because it's so odd, you know. I mean, I
yeah.
can't say for sure that it's not true, but I think there's a good chance it's not. It's if he does, they're dead, so it's none of my business anyway.
Oh,
Uh,
no,
so,
no.
but it keeps coming up. But one scene I find kind of interesting that I really don't have an answer for because it raises more questions, and I think that's the point of the scene
Mhm.
is before he kills Paul. I don't remember if it happened in the musical. He takes a medication and then sets it on the counter, and we see that it's a doctor prescribed medication.
Yeah.
Now, I'm a mental health advocate. I don't like putting labels on characters or diagnosing them, so that's not what I'm looking to do. Or and what the medication is might not matter. Maybe it's Klonopin
Um,
or a painkiller. Who knows? That would be my guess. But what do you think of that part?
I can actually answer this question for you.
Oh,
Well,
interesting.
because
So he saw a psychiatrist at some point?
I am on antidepressants. That's neither just here nor there.
Oh,
But
so am I. I'm
well,
on the most
because
Wellbutrin than anybody else. My
yeah, I'm on
bupropion is
acetyl.
600 milligrams, baby.
Yeah, I'm a lightweight. I'm only 10 milligrams on both acetalopram and buspirone. But anyway, no, the reason I can answer that question, as everyone knows from prior episodes, especially on Maniac and our upcoming Henry Portrait of a Serial Killer episode,
Ooh, good
Lynn
one.
Lynn is my resident expert when it comes to serial murder 101 because they have indeed taken courses on it. And I did find this on IMDb, and Lynn confirmed it. But Patrick Bateman does, in fact, suffer from various levels of psychoses. I'm just trying to pull them up,
Well,
but
antipsychotics don't work that way. Like that you take them regularly, but they can't unless you aren't used to the side effects yet, and it will make you sleepy or
mhm.
slow. Because antipsychotics, which I have one as a PRN for the symptoms of it, so it knocks me out. That's really personal, but I don't give a shit.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, I mean, if you make it
but
personal with your
I don't
friends
give
on
a
the
shit.
podcast, what? How
We're
come?
all people.
Exactly.
And it's not edgy. It's just we're all people, okay? So, but if it's an antipsychotic, they don't work that way where it would work right in the moment unless you haven't taken it long enough where the symptoms get to you. But
Hmm.
they're a bummer, man. So
Oh
the
yeah.
serotonin is sucked from your brain, literally. But is that what they say it is? Like it's like probably like
Oh, here we
Haldol or
go.
something?
I
What?
got it. Basically, he has shown characteristics of narcissistic personality disorder, obsessive compulsive disorder, antisocial personality disorder, and schizophrenia,
Hmm.
which
A lot
honestly,
of umbrellas, basically.
there's a
Which
lot of there. Well, I do know for a fact there are medications for schizophrenia. I do know that. In
well,
fact,
antipsychotics, yeah.
yeah. So no,
Like,
so in all likelihood, he probably did. Yeah, those pills he's taking are antipsychotics. Um,
so you don't think he took it to help him with like obviously he had no problem doing the murder, but you don't think he took it in that moment. It was just a convenient moment because to me it means something. I'm not disagreeing with you, and I just having a conversation because
oh,
in the moment he takes it before he's going to kill somebody, and I think that he does it that moment, and that they in the movie they really pinpoint it. They don't show the name; they just show that it is doctor prescribed. So the idea that, maybe it could be painkillers too.
Mhm.
But,
It could be.
it really doesn't matter. But it's interesting to me. It raises the question, like, if it is like for something for mental health, or anxiety, like anxiety, what depression, whatever, unless it's like something like a Klonopin or a lorazepam, whatever that works quickly with anxiety,
Mhm.
um, or it's a medication you're not used to, so it will make you sleepy. Or the
Yeah.
idea that he might have gone to a psychiatrist is crazy to me. So
Yeah.
I don't know, but it's something that I don't think it's supposed to have an answer, but it's
It's
interesting.
it's just the idea that he has problem. Well, I'm also going to add people like in a social class. It is also
Taboo.
probably no, I wouldn't say taboo, but I'm pretty sure every single one in his group all go to a psychiatrist, but it's all entirely cosmetic because nothing says that you are a paragon of that you are also not only are you a physically ideal individual that you look great, but nothing says that you're considerate over your mental health. And oh yeah, I'm seeing a therapist. Look at me. I'm also taking my mental health into
My
consideration.
psychiatrist said that to me once, that he's like, a lot of people just do, my psychiatrist, not my therapist, a lot of people just do it because it looks good.
Exactly. And I'm like going, no, I'm doing this because I legitimately am terrified for my mental well-being. So therefore, oh no, I even in my last session with my therapist, they were saying, it's great that the meds are working for you. Stay on them. Most people, a lot of times, they will, I feel good now. I don't need them anymore, and then they just wean off of them, and then
Hey, that was my early in my teens and early 20s problem, baby.
yeah,
And so just while we're on the subject, just briefly, and part of the taboo with mental health is everyone has issues with mental health. It's important. If you break your leg and you're a really active person going outside, running, or it's part of your job to be physical, and you're kind of stuck inside for a while, you're gonna get depressed.
oh,
And
absolutely.
so mental health is something we all deal with. Mental illness is a different thing,
Mhm.
altogether. But the only reason it's so separated is because insurance companies want more money, baby. That's it.
Well, absolutely.
Besides old school stereotypes and,
Yeah,
othering people for, whatever mental or physical reason, whether
yeah.
you're visibly disabled or not.
Yeah, because so you could say that Patrick Bateman, in all likelihood, visits a psychiatrist just because it's gauche to do so. I guess if gauche is the proper term. I don't know. I've never understood the meaning of that term, but anyway, it just seemed like it's chic. Oh, chic. If it's chic,
It's the, yeah, same kind of, yeah,
yeah.
same
If the
word,
idea that
basically,
it's
almost.
yeah. So in all likelihood, he probably does, but he probably takes the meds just because he's told to, and in all
They don't
likelihood,
work, baby.
yeah,
Whatever it is. I mean, unless it makes him a little calm and we can't tell.
yeah. I
They
mean,
don't
there's
work.
something. Well, it's not working because there's one point. Well, the point where he makes that call to Gene at the tail end of the movie, he's down in those suckers. He's chewing on them. He's eating those suckers like candy. So, he's
That's not how
desperate.
medication works, Patrick.
That's not how it works. Yeah. Well, and
Unless it's a PRN, like quick release,
yeah.
you know.
A lot of times they even say don't chew it because it'll hit you like a Mack truck. So
Mm,
yeah. Uh, but
I
as
like it. I like my meds extended release, baby. Give
exactly.
me that capsule. Oof.
Exactly. I like just the chill. I like to ride the wave. Not even a wave. I like to
I
ride
just feel
after.
normal when I take them, and then when I don't take them, I'm like, why do I feel so weird? Oh, that's right.
Oh. Oh no. One day I like I think it was the second time I went to go see Obsession. I forgot to take them in the morning and then I immediately was regretting it like soon enough afterwards. Well, this is a film that yeah, didn't do well initially, but because of just the conversations being had, and I'm gonna say it during this times of the annoying orange, I think it's safe to say that has definitely given a lot of people a new reevaluation of what the movie's talking about. Because another thing in the book is that Patrick is, a complete stand for Donald Trump. That's another thing. So the
Is
movie,
that Ivanka Trump?
yeah. Oh no, that's in the movie, but in the book, man, there is like whole
And he
sections
talks about Donald,
where
yeah.
he's like completely
And
fed.
it's surreal.
Yeah.
I'm listening to that audiobook now. I'm gonna start it right, like tonight.
Oh no, there's a great laugh in the musical where he's like getting all wet for Donald Trump, and there's a great laugh in that moment where people are like totally
And he
ripped.
was just a celebrity realtor. I don't remember what year did he write Art of the Deal? I
I
don't
think it was
know.
around that time. I definitely know it was before American Psycho takes place. So,
And the
uh,
reason Les Mis is important is because that's again a status symbol.
Oh yeah, because that was the hottest ticket on Broadway at that time, and which is funny because everything Les Mis represents is totally against the. It's totally against.
Mirrors, baby, mirrors.
Yeah, but Patrick is totally oblivious to what the musical's legitimately about, and is just like, oh, I'm just going to go see it because that's what everyone's seeing at right now at this time. So, oh, but the other thing about it that I was going to make mention is the fact that Christian Bale, everyone told him not to do it, but he did it. And that's what, as it turns out, what landed him Batman. It's what landed him a lot of his roles later on down the line because that was like the first time he took center stage as a major in a lead, like where he's like in the scene every single moment. And it catapulted him because people saw how fearless he was as an actor to play a role that at that time people probably were just disgusted to even fathom the notion that I'm seeing a pattern always. Like a lot of times, whenever a movie has, when people tell you don't do it, if ever someone told me don't do it, I'm like, I'm gonna
I'm
do it.
gonna do it now. I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
I want to do it now.
It's not against you, but I want to do it more now.
Yeah,
I
just
want to
because it's
do it
gonna.
more.
Yeah.
Anyway, so just one little extra comment when we were saying, like, am I messed up that it's not that bad? To me, the horrors in the book more so are like when he calls women hard bodies and the
Mhm.
gross male culture is more upsetting to me than the actual violence, which is supposed to be over the top. Don't get me wrong, the violence is excessive. It
Yeah.
is excessive. It is not light. It is
No.
not subtle. It is
No.
very overt.
Yeah.
But it's more so being like reading the way he thinks is
Mhm.
disturbing.
I think a lot of that also comes from the fact that we are much more receptive to what the actual horror is in certain stories. And I think for us, we know what the real story is all the real horror is happening inside Patrick Bateman's head because and all the violence and stuff that's happening is a result of all the
But
horrific
the
stuff.
world he lives in is a horror. It's
Exactly.
awful. Like,
Yeah.
like in, I think I already mentioned it with Reagan on the TV, and I think it's Tim Bryce that
Mhm.
says,
Yeah.
"Are they going to keep getting away with this?"
Yeah. Yeah, you did. Yeah, we did
And
mention.
yes, they are. Yes, they are.
And as evidenced by the fact that unfortunately, here we are in this political climate looking out right now. I think if there's any answer to that question is that yes, unfortunately, they do keep getting away with it. And that's the sickest part of all is that, and there are probably a lot of people in this world who have had mental breakdowns like Patrick has had, but probably do sit at their high-end restaurants all thinking the exact same thing, like going, I simply don't exist, and that there is no exit at the grand scheme of things. So,
Look, what are some of your favorite jokes? I know we've talked about this, but I mean, Sean Bateman in the book,
yeah.
hilarious. The no, Lewis, you're mistaken,
Mm,
or oh, this is much nicer than your other apartment. What are
yeah.
some of your favorite jokes that maybe you've mentioned already, but just like a
Yeah.
little part of the wrap up?
I think if anything else, as far as like in the movie goes, I'd say probably one of the funniest is just how almost orgasmic Patrick is when he's describing when he's describing Paul's business card, just like, oh
The
my God,
subtle thickness
subtle
of it.
thickness of it. Oh my God, it
And
even
he's
has tongue.
sweating.
Yeah, and just the fact he drops it's almost like I would like to think that his direction was that, act like you're about to come. Uh
It's like act like you are about to come but don't want to.
yeah, that you
You know
don't
that
want
because it
to.
looks pained at the same time.
Yeah, I think that's the part that's like the most hilarious to me. Um,
I think of that line, the subtle thickness of it.
mhm.
Because he's like horrified and impressed at the same time. The subtle thickness.
Yeah, I mean, we could go on all day talking about like a lot of the hilarious things. I mean, you could even
This
say
is a movie I could talk about forever, so you
we
do have to
could.
wrap me up on it because
Yeah,
it's
we
one of
really
my
could.
favorite movies of all time. I know
Yeah.
it's kind of been co-opted in some circles of like people thinking Patrick Bateman's cool, or people overcorrecting like, "Oh, you're dressing like Patrick Bateman. You know he's not supposed to be cool." And it's like, yeah, I know.
Most of the best cosplayers I've encountered who do it, I,
They know.
it's like they are fully aware of the joke. I mean, I will say I did see on Instagram this amazing Patrick Bateman cosplayer who's practically a dead ringer for Christian Bale.
Ooh.
But I could tell he's receptive to the joke and the lie of it in the way he presents himself
To
to it.
me, even though not everyone would care, like some people might say it's horror with joke. To me, this is the perfect and one of the best because there's so many horror comedies of all time. Because to me, this is a
Yes,
horror comedy and it's meant to
absolutely.
be. That's why Christian Bale got the part. He understood that it was funny.
Yes. Oh, precisely. I agree with you 100%. This is precise. And I kind of put this movie in the same camp as something like A Clockwork Orange, where it's a movie that when I initially saw it, I didn't realize how funny it would be, or I didn't realize that it was funny. But then as time went on, the more I kept watching it, the funnier it just kept getting for me. And then I just
Like
realized,
him picturing himself like whip Jesus. Oh my God.
yeah, precisely. So immediately I'm like going, okay, I get you, movie. I see what you're doing now, movie. So, all right, that is American Psycho, and I
I
knew
want to talk about it more, but we
I
do have to wrap up.
know,
I
but
want to talk
we
about
gotta
it
wrap up.
forever.
Oh, got to. But let's go. So, a nice little way to kind of like help us hit it home. What would your recommendation be, like of something you've seen recently?
Something I've seen recently.
Yeah,
Well, it's not a horror movie, and it's a famous movie. Is that okay?
that's fine. If it's a
I
terrific
had
movie,
never gotten around to watching because it's Pride Month.
hmm.
With The Watermelon Woman, where the premise is a woman who works at a video store and she has a deep love for film. She's a cinephile like us, and she likes watching like old films and how black people, she is black, and how black people are presented. And there's one woman that she is drawn to that is only credited as Watermelon Woman, even though she is in other
Hmm.
films, and she goes on this journey figuring out who that woman was, and it's amazing.
Ah,
It's funny, it's touching, it also feels so real. And even though there is like certain bits of context of being black in America and also
hmm.
being a lesbian in America, there's just something that feels like it's just more than the context, you know?
Yeah, I
It
like that.
goes beyond. So I know that's a popular movie, and I know, it's not horror at all, but if like me, you're late to the show, go see it right now.
Hmm. Excellent.
Have you
Um,
seen it?
what? Which one? The watermelon one?
Yeah.
No. This is the first time I've ever heard
Oh,
of.
go see it immediately. It's
No, I didn't even
fantastic.
know. Is it out right now? Is it in theaters?
Oh, it's old.
Oh, it's an
It's
old
like
film.
it's an old film from the
Oh, okay.
90s or something. Yeah.
Okay.
It might be. It's probably on Criterion right now because it's Pride
Ah,
Month. I've
gotcha.
been doing a lot of Pride Month viewings.
Well, since we're on Pride Month, and I don't think, well, right now as we're recording, we are still in the midst of Pride Month. No, there's one movie that I did go see in the theaters, which I absolutely loved, and I really got emotionally invested in it. I don't even know if I've recommended it yet, but I'm going to. I saw Leviticus in
I
theaters.
missed it in theaters. I'm bummed
It
about
is
that.
that one is a gorgeous movie. I really, really was receptive to that movie. I was it's funny because they've made attempts to try to do horror in conversion, like set in conversion camps or just conversion horror as far as religion in relation to queer themes.
But I'm a cheerleader is another good one. If you
Yeah,
haven't seen that
yeah,
by
that one.
chance.
Well, I mean, like there was a movie with Kevin Bacon called They Slash Them, which attempted it, but not to with
Oh yeah, I
success.
didn't. It was a
But this
horror.
one, this one, on the other hand, runs the gamut of emotion from like tragedy to heartbreak to even, but then it leads to like something very emotionally fulfilling at the very end. It's a gorgeous movie. Joe Bird, I think is his name from Talk to Me, plays the lead in this, and he is spectacular. This is just one that, and first, and I will say there are moments that are like shocking, like not like Obsession, which beats the shit out of you, but this is one where there's moments that are like you want to be like you want these characters to be safe. You really do. But then there are moments that it unflinchingly wants to break your heart.
Mm.
And I love the fearlessness of it. I really, really got loved the hell out of this movie. Where it lands on my final lineup for the year is up in the air, but that's where I live. But I would say Leviticus, if you have not seen it yet, I definitely recommend it. As far as anything classic is concerned, I did finally sit down and watch Takashi Miike's One Missed Call. I yeah.
It's not his best film,
Well,
but it's fun.
it's not his best film, but I am going to flat out say it makes me impressed with him so much more as a
I
director.
always forget that he directed that.
That's I think my point is the fact that I've seen his other works. I've seen Ichi the
Itchy
Killer.
the Killer,
Yeah, Ichi the Killer, among other things. But so you can imagine my surprise when I watched this one. I'm like, oh, this one is remarkably collected and very. He's much more interested in just focusing on strictly dread and just building dread, leading to those. Because there are moments in this film which I was most people go all get all wet for Ring and Ring You and all that. This one might be my favorite of the J horror movements, like during that time period, because frankly, this one had moments that really did get my heart racing in terms of just the build up. I mean, the whole centerpiece with the TV studio, that was such a great escalation of dread where they kept playing with the whole like, what's going to happen with, even though like this person's supposed to die, but I love how they're trying to like, okay, we're going to show it. Oh, okay, we got this exorcist coming in, and I love the way it's leading up to the payoff, and it's so good. But I really love One Missed Call. So, yep, So those are my random recommendations as well. So, actually, you and me, very soon are going to be recording. We are going to, you are going to be in our 007, our Grow Up 007 series, which you have the unenviable task of selling
I
me.
did it on purpose.
Yeah, no, I was so thrilled when
Sigmund Freud, analyze this, analyze this.
we are
It's
going to
so
talk
fucking
about Die
good.
Another Day, which I've never been more excited to talk about Die Another Day because that's the one Bond film where I've got issues with, but I can't wait because I have
That one, not Goldeneye, I think, or is Goldeneye, which I don't know. So I like Thunderball a lot,
oh, I
even though
love
it's
them.
not my favorite. And I love the Tom Jones song.
Oh
Shirley
yeah.
Bassey is peak, especially
Oh
Diamonds
yeah.
Are Forever in the
Oh,
songs. That was one of my
I
favorite. And then Garbage,
World's Not Enough.
yeah, that's The World's
Yeah.
Not Enough is another great one.
Oh
And
yeah.
obviously any Shirley Bassey one, but I really love that. I love Tom Jones Thunderball song.
Yeah. Oh, I can't wait for us to get into it because Die Another Day is the one that I have a feeling to me I kind of consider it to be the Batman and Robin of the Bond franchise. In many ways. I think back then I would have
It
made
was
myself,
it's a film that's very of the times for something that's supposed to be a little bit timeless.
well, I mean, given the fact that it was well, there you go. We'll get into it when we get into it, but I'm just
Oh, we
announcing it
will.
now.
We
I'm just
will.
announcing it now for everybody because Emma will be joining me for that, and that's oddly enough an episode I'm really excited to record because I feel like we are going to go places because as you can kind of see as evidenced by how many places we went to for American Psycho, you can kind of get a good indicator of what we're going to do for that. So, but that will not be airing until November. So, in the meantime, Emma, give everyone your socials of where they can find you now.
I mostly am active on my Instagram, but if I'm on a social media platform, which I'm on most of them, actually have something that says this is the fake Emma of the Impact. Uh, but I'm Emma of the Impact simply
Hmm.
anywhere. You search that, you'll find me.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, everybody. So this was the last episode for
Especially on YouTube, my YouTube,
actually
where
no.
I have a
Oh yeah,
podcast.
yeah, especially
I'm
there.
still gonna mention Emma of the Impact. It's Emma of the Impact Film Podcast. So that's why it's so easy. I just keep it streamlined.
Yes. Keep it simple, keep it streamlined. As long as you don't have multiple names, people can find you easier. So, all right, everybody. So this is actually no correction. This is not the last episode of August. In fact, next week will be me and Lynn tackling Henry Portrait of a Serial Killer. And
Exciting.
yes, and then we are going to be going into Horror by Proxy month, where we celebrate the movies that aren't categorized as horror, but definitely walk in the same in this under the same umbrella as horror. And I'm gonna
In Henry Portrait of a Serial Killer, you're gonna talk a bit about the true crime elements of it.
oh, absolutely.
Interesting,
Absolutely.
interesting.
Oh no,
Very,
we're going to talk
very
about all of it.
interesting.
In fact,
Yeah.
that's where Lynn's going to come in. That's where Lynn's going to bring like a lot of their insight on this. But for Horror by Proxy month, to repeat our lineup, we are doing Adam's Family and Adam's Family Values in one episode. We are doing The Witches with Ivory Littles. They jumped at that. They jumped at it. Dark Man, and then Ernest Scared Stupid.
Oh my God. I think my favorite might be Ernest Goes to Jail. It's hard to pick a favorite one.
As an Orlandian, we are all legally obligated to have Ernest Saves Christmas as our favorite because that
Okay,
one.
I wasn't aware of that.
Oh, because it was because that was during that time period when Orlando was trying to be like the what Atlanta is today, what Orlando was trying to be that around that point. So
I'll keep that in mind.
if you know Orlando, nothing cracks us up more than seeing like all the key landmarks of Orlando all there, like portrayed. It's kind of funny. It's hilarious. It's kind of wonderful. So
Nothing but good taste. I have
yeah.
all apart Pauly Shore's movies. Yeah.
I will go to bat for son-in-law.
Awesome.
I will go to bat for son-in-law, to be honest. I
Mm.
actually think Son-in-Law is a very warm, very heartfelt film, to be dead
I
honest.
like Biodome. I Encino. I think part of it is nostalgia. even though it was a little bit before my time.
Yeah.
But, remember in the 90s, we got to wrap up, like where it was like one of the biggest jokes, and it was in South Park and stuff like that, is environmentalists, but it was like the faux environmentalists where
Yeah.
you're just doing it to look cool. But that was an ultimate, which I talked about from the movie with starring, other movie recommendation, and then I'm gonna stop.
Right.
Is Freaked, starring
Yes,
Dennis
Alex
Quaid.
Winter.
Yes, Alex Winter
Yeah.
and Dennis Quaid, Styrofoam.
Yeah.
And Dennis Quaid is full
Look up there.
Dennis Quaid.
Look up at the top.
Or Randy Quaid. I'm so wrong.
Yeah, Randy Quaid.
Randy Quaid is 1,000%
Yes.
Randy Quaid in this. Oh, it's so good.
Yeah, take a look up there, right next to Praise Glove.
I love it. I love it. Freaked
Yeah.
is so fun.
Alex
It's so
Winter,
fun.
baby. We met him, and actually, there's finally.
You met Randy Quaid?
No, Alex Winter. I met him.
Alex Winter, he's much cooler.
Oh, he's way cooler. Way cooler. Absolutely. No, Alex Winter is an absolute joy. And I think it was like right after he just did Destroy All Neighbors as well, and he got back under the heavy makeup again. So no, I love me some Alex Winter. I will tell everybody, Bill and Ted Face the Music was exactly the movie we needed when that sucker came out. I felt no end of joy on that one just because it was so sweet. Just such a
Be
sweet
excellent to each other, man.
Yeah. We need Bill and Ted like right here, right now. Just be excellent to each other.
And Alex Winters is awesome, and as far as we know, and Keanu Reeves is awesome as far as we know.
Yeah. Precisely. So be excellent to each other. Party on, dudes. And if you wish to delve into the dark bowels of human imagination, ask yourself the simple question, what's in the podcast?
I won't go anywhere without a reservation.
I should probably get one right now.
Thank you for joining us on this edition of What's in the Podcast. If you find yourself hungry for more deep cuts into the gloriously morbid and macabre, you can also find us on TikTok, BlueSky, and YouTube at Narcotic Casserole. You can also follow us on Instagram at Narcotic Casserole 25. Follow us if you dare.